Maybe I'll do it while we're just talking.
Guess I have my sim going now, and then I'll have mine.
God damn it. And we aren't live. We are live. Welcome to MLB Deeper Dive. Jordan's bad at counting down from 5, which doesn't surprise me. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Underdog. 14-game MLB slate. This one is a biggie. It's going to be fun. Maybe I'm wrong, but in what I've noticed, Adam, you can correct me here. We're just going to live open this. Is Tuesday the only day that they do 100K prize pools? Or 100K to first?
I think they've thrown one on Friday recently too, but I could be wrong.
Maybe that'll change now with the NBA done or something.
They've definitely only been doing it on days where you have 13 plus games.
Okay, because
which seems
I don't know why. Yeah, it seems like it's going to fill.
Right, and it's not like there's people sitting around like, oh, there's only 10 baseball games today. I'm not going to play. And then they're like, oh, thank God, there's 13. Now I'm going to go play.
Yeah, anything north of 4 or 5, right, and I think it's all the same slate.
Right, I can't imagine you're getting a different set of people between 9 games and 13.
Now, I saw it this morning, and I was like, I feel like it's every Tuesday, and what a weird day to get that. Tuesdays are, uneventful days in general. I'm excited to talk a little baseball. Glad basketball's over. Fun season. Go Nugs. Go Nikola Jokic. The fraud that is Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat have been dispatched once again. No surprises there. Didn't expect the Heat to be just whooping their ass in the first half, but all was right in the world when it ended, except for the fact that Jordan Frank was in first. It all would have been right in the world if my lineup would have been the one that was in first.
Yeah, of course.
And things would have been way worse if Rinpack soloed it. Sorry, Ryan. Obviously, soloing that for 250 would have been a hell of a closeout.
Yeah, I was saying to you, there was somebody between that first place train, which I don't mean that in a derogatory way because they all took up 75K. Congrats.
Yeah.
But
it's not a train in showdown.
Right. Yeah. But between that first place group and Rinpack, there was another solo guy that was maybe a point out and got 10K. And it's God, that is a disgusting 240K swing. Yeah,
that one's incredibly unpleasant. Can you imagine if that one happens the way that yours did on the Phantom Jamal?
Oh my God, that would be awful.
I like that it took a half beat for that to click in your head.
Yeah.
The look on your face there was just oh, that would have really, really been bad.
I still think the worst beat I've had in DFS was NFL Showdown. Unknown Gerald Everett captain scores a touchdown. They called him down at the 1. McVay didn't challenge. This is when he was on the Rams. McVay didn't challenge it. Decided to just let Chalk Gurley run it in on the next play. So of course, because I hate myself, I went back and checked, all the scores at the end and would have solo shipped 400K if they got the call right on the field. Assuming that the rest of the game goes as it did.
Oh, hey, man, that's not fun.
And instead I broke even.
Manny, the artist formerly known as Manny, had a bad one, obviously.
Yeah, that was really the fumble on the on the kickoff.
Yeah, there's a couple out there that are
that was a really bad one.
Yeah, maybe that's where it all went wrong. You want to talk some baseball?
Anything but that.
I mean, talking that is fine by me. Probably not fine by a lot of other people. Anyway, let's talk some baseball. Your Orioles are first up for today, taking on the Blue Jays. 4.2 run implied total for the O's, 4.5 for the Jays. Dean Kramer, Chris Bassett. Not any ownership coming into these guys. Kramer at 1%, Bassett at 1%. Do you anticipate getting to either one of these guys? Because they're both good-ish.
Ish is doing a lot of work there.
I mean, they're there's a lot of bad out there today.
Yeah,
these guys are real major league players that are real starters.
Yeah, I still don't think I'm going to get to much. I just finished a dummy crunch now just to kind of have a better idea of what's showing up. But there are a lot of bad pitchers out there, like you said. But there is also a pretty strong range between 8,800 and 10.5 on DraftKings, where you just have a bunch of options. None of them are super popular. A couple are north of 30%, but if you don't like that, you can just get to somebody that's in the teens. So I don't think I'm going to get too much of them. Really, really tough spot for Kramer. We don't have a Toronto lineup yet, unless it's come out in the last like 2 minutes. But assuming it's something close to normal, they're a really tough team to strike out. They have a lot of good hitters. On the other side for Baltimore, this lineup really scares me for Bassett. He's a decent pitcher, but only about a 21% strikeout percentage for the season. But the thing that really concerns me here is that, and this comes up a lot when we talk about the Orioles, like obviously they're a team that I'm always interested in the upside that they give you, but when they're at home against left-handed pitching, they're a really tough team to get to because they'll have right-handed bats in the lineup, but the park just kills right-handed power. But here you have them against a righty in Bassett that struggles with left-handed bats. He's allowed a 229 expected ISO to lefties this year, 371 expected WOBA. You have Henderson, Rutschman, Santander, O'Hearn, Hicks, Frazier, all in the top 7. So 6 left-handed bats in the top 7, plus Austin Hayes, who's just been hitting the hell out of the ball all year long. And Camden Yards is still very, very good for left-handed power. So it's tough to make a real case for Bassett outside of just hitting's really hard and he could have a good game.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see much here. Kramer 4% top pitcher odds, 7% for Bassett. Those on a 14-game slate, those are not exciting numbers to see. So I guess we need to talk about bats, and it seems like the Blue Jays are the more likely team to get to, 5th in ownership, 6th in top stack. You trying to get to Toronto here against Kramer?
I actually prefer the Orioles.
Well, I mean, should we even take that into consideration? Like, of course you do.
So, I mean, I prefer the Orioles for basically the same reasons I was just saying when we talked about Bassett. Dean Kramer gives up power, and I'm not trying to make it sound like, Toronto doesn't have a high ceiling. They have a ton of really good hitters. They can obviously do a lot of damage. Kramer's allowed a 218 expected ISO to righties, 255 to lefties. It's a perfectly fine spot for the Blue Jays. It's just that assuming their lineup is normal, you're probably going to have 6 righties in it. Almost all of their best hitters are right-handed, and this park is awful for right-handed power. It's been, I believe, the 3rd worst park for right-handed home runs this year. It was, I believe, the 7th worst last year, and before that, nothing matters because they hadn't moved the ball back. So it just sets up as a really difficult spot. Not to say that like none of these guys can hit home runs. It's just that it's pretty likely, even if they do get to Kramer, even if they are hitting the ball hard, you're probably losing out on at least 1 or 2 where it's just like, oh, that ended up being a 370-foot fly out to left field. Whereas the Orioles set up basically perfect for the ballpark. They just have nothing but left-handed power against a pitcher that struggles with that. So I don't want it to sound like I'm taking away from the upside for Toronto. I just think everything actually sets up a little bit better for Baltimore.
Does this seem like even if it does set up a little bit better for Baltimore, does this seem like a spot that you're actually getting to?
No, I think it's still more of just a contrarian tournament spot. Gunnar Henderson individually looks very good at $3,600. Leading off once again. I've talked about him a lot this year that I thought sooner than later he was going to bounce back, start hitting really well. You've seen him heating up recently, but 3,600 with MPE leading off, he looks great. Other than that, I think again there is upside here, but there's a lot of bad pitching on this slate, and taking bats against Chris Bassett isn't at the top of the list of things to do, I don't think.
So in general, just looking at this is kind of like a nothing game.
Pretty much.
Okay. Rank it.
Orioles bats, Blue Jays bats, Bassett, Kramer.
Orioles bats, Blue Jays bats, Bassett, Kramer. Yeah, mine's probably
you could
like
go Blue Jays bats first. Nothing wrong with that. I just kind of like the Orioles more.
Yeah, I don't have anything else really to add here from a take perspective other than highlighting Gunnar Henderson, who is probably a cash game play today, or at least certainly in the short list, considering you get an MPE with short and third. I got nothing else, though.
Yeah, Mark Curry asked how far they moved the fence back and left. It was like 30 feet, and they also made it. It went from like 8 feet tall to I think now it's 13 feet tall.
Why is that script not running? MLB lineup gen. That's going to become a problem. Mets and Yankees. Subway Series, 4.2 run implied total for the Mets, 3-4 for the Yankees. Max Scherzer on the hill for New York. Luis Severino on the hill for New York. 33% ownership coming into Scherzer. Let's just start there. 9,800 for Scherzer, fourth most expensive pitcher on today's slate. Essentially the highest owned. He and Pablo Lopez are both basically the same. How are you seeing Scherzer here against the Yankees?
Yeah, this one I'm actually really interested to see how things look once I finish getting that crunch that I just ran set up, because I think Scherzer looks good. This version of the Yankees is not the same without Aaron Judge. That goes without saying. Their active roster right now only has a 90 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. They've still only struck out about 21.5% of the time. It's not the best strikeout matchup, but clearly not as dangerous a lineup without Judge. Scherzer's been good this year, not, peak Scherzer, but still he's struck out about 26.5% of hitters, 4.04 xFIP, 3.89 FIP. He's a good pitcher. The price tag at 9,800 is a little expensive, but it's not, too crazy. So I think he's a good play. I am a little surprised that he's getting so much more ownership than some of the other pitchers in that price tier. Like, I'm not totally convinced that Max Scherzer should be twice as popular as any of Hunter Brown, Corbin Burns, George Kirby, Edward Cabrera, Zach Wheeler. I mean, he's 4 times as popular as Zach Wheeler. So that's kind of the thing, is there's a lot of pitchers there that I think look similar, but I do get that Scherzer's projecting the best of the group other than Hunter Brown. So I do think he's a good play, but it is a spot where I think the ownership's a little bit concerning.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot. It's a weird order, at least based on the way that Steamer has the Yankees order set up from a strikeout rate perspective. It's Bauer, Stanton, 2 massive strikeout numbers. And then Torres, Rizzo, LeMahieu, Kiner Falefa, all not really guys that strike out. And then McKinney, Higashioka, and Volpe, all big time-ish strikeout people. So they've got this chasm in the middle of guys that don't strike out that much, bookended by lots of strikeouts. I think I guess I get it why he's getting so much ownership, but I don't like it at all. 3.4 run implied total makes me feel better.
Yeah. It's just when you compare him to the other pieces, it's I don't think that on its surface, 35% is that problematic. It's not a very good Yankees lineup. It's just, you have other very good pitchers up there as well. So that's my only real concern. And like I said, I am interested to see sort of how much I'm actually getting to.
He came out of my optimal sim, not top pitchers, just who's most optimal across the run. 29% actually. So, but I'm not surprised by that because
35 for me.
We both know that, Steamer's definitely going to be given the goods to Max Scherzer at this point, even if he is mildly declining.
Right. Yeah. And he did show up as the most optimal pitcher for me as well. So again, I get it. It's just that I don't necessarily think there should be that big of a gap, but looking at the lineups, if the slate started right now, I would be getting to a lot of them.
Okay. What about Severino on the opposite side? 5% owned, 7,100. What is he now?
Yeah, I mean, he struggled in a limited sample this year, but it's also a tough strikeout matchup for him. So on the one hand, at 7,100, you can certainly still argue that that's a cheap, too cheap of a price tag for his talent level. But I don't really think you need to pay down there all that much on this slate. You don't have a game in Coors. You have some very inexpensive bats that you can get to. And that's pretty much always going to be the case on 14 game slates. There's just going to be cheap hitters. So I'm not really finding it that necessary to pay down. And when I am paying down, it looks like I'm actually going even a little bit cheaper than his price tag. So I'm not getting to him. The Mets are tough to strike out. Their lineup is a little bit weaker than usual with no Peter Alonso, similar to what you're seeing with the Yankees. But it's one of those spots where would it shock anybody if Severino has a good start? It shouldn't, but there's just so many pitching options on this slate that I'm not really getting him.
Let's see. I got a crunch done, so I actually have some information now to try to go over. I have 84% Scherzer, so that seems to be working out pretty well. Not surprised by seeing that either. Do I love it? No.
Right.
I don't have Severino. But yeah, there are a couple ultra cheap guys that are pulling a little bit of ownership that if I'm going to go to Severino, I'm probably just going a little bit further down the list.
Yeah. Cutter Crawford appears to be showing up in some lineups.
Yeah. Crawford tie on for me. I've got a few Jordan Lyles shares that make me sick to my stomach, but we don't have to talk about that. I'll pretend like I don't.
I think I do too.
Okay. Well then.
Which I don't like, obviously.
Yeah, nor should we. we're certainly not going to Yankees bats, right? Or do you look at that as to me, I don't look at that Yankees lineup and think that's a good way to get to this is not the opportune time to get to the opposite side of Scherzer.
Yeah, I don't really see it that way either. It's a 14 game slate. So one, I'm getting to Scherzer. And two, even if you're not, it's a really, really easy spot for them to just middle. Like if you're not getting to Scherzer, you don't have to just go to the Yankees because Scherzer can have a good start, but if he gets beat by like Burns and Cabrera or Burns and Brown or, any of those two guys, you're just he's expensive enough where it's not like, you had to have played him. The Yankees don't have to do a lot for that to be the case.
Very true.
And if the slate started right now, I'd have around 48% Scherzer.
Oh, okay. Interesting. You've transposed my 84.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate getting to the Mets either. I do sort of like the situation against Severino, but it's not that kind of park. And again, it's 14 games. There are 26 other offenses to get to if we're ignoring the Yankees. There's just going to be better spots here. I don't have much of anything that I would want in this game other than Scherzer.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing I'm getting from this game is Scherzer. Not getting either offense. Francisco Alvarez, like 5%, showing up like 5% individually, but I don't really have anything other than Scherzer.
And I think I would rank it Scherzer 1, I don't care. After that, Yankees last. Yeah. Easy enough. Game 3, I think we're going to like part of this one. Red Sox and Rockies. 5.5 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4 for the Rockies. Cutter Crawford and Chase Anderson. We're not going to Chase Anderson because he probably shouldn't even be in the league, but Cutter Crawford, 5,900, 8% owned in this spot. Kind of a Cutter Crawford day if you're looking to save some money.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, you're not expecting him to go super deep into the game, but he's only $5,900. The Rockies are absolute garbage. 3.7 implied run total. I'm not going crazy here because, again, I don't think you need to pay down that much, but he's showing up 8 to 10% for me. So pretty much in line with the field there. Good matchup. Not likely to go deep into the game. And the biggest thing, though, I think is just that you have so much value in the way of hitting that you just don't need to go there very often.
Yeah, I have 11%. We have him projected for 8 at 5,900. I think that's cool with me. It's just, it makes the lineup work. Look, anytime that I could take an arm against the Rockies, it's probably going to look okay on the road. And Crawford is good enough that that's going to hold up at this point.
I mean, you say on the road, you just played 25% Ryan Weathers in course.
Oh, man, I don't know what to do with that. It's fair. It's fair. Look, they're bad. Aggregate WOBA today, 302. That is the lowest number on the slate, even lower than the A's, who might never lose again.
Yeah. Hopefully they keep beating up on Tampa.
I did play that much Ryan Weathers, though. The Ohtani, or not the Ohtani, never mind. The Darvish side of that one.
Every other time you've done it, I've been like, okay, I'm kind of jealous that you're getting to that guy because I'm not, and I think it's a good play. When you showed me Weathers, I was like, what are you doing?
I didn't even know it happened until it happened. Chase Anderson shares?
No, I do not have any of that. I will say, and this slate is kind of weird because there's a few spots like this. The Red Sox are clearly one of the best offenses to get to. 5.4 implied run total, great hitters park, all of that. The actual matchup with Anderson does kind of concern me when you think about what Chase Anderson is and has always been good at, and that is limiting lefties. He's always just been a reverse splits guy for pretty much his entire career. So far this season, same thing is true. Lefties have a 132 expected ISO and a 290 expected WOBA against him. Granted, we're talking 220 pitches, and overall, this is not a good pitcher. So again, I think the Red Sox are a good stack, but this is one of the spots where one of the most popular teams, if you just look at what the pitcher is actually good at and what the opposing lineup looks like, it's a little concerning, kind of like with Toronto.
It's true. It's true. I get where you're going with it. That said, the Boston Red Sox, second in top stacks, sixth in top value. They are second in stack score, third in ownership. I know you and I had them yesterday, and it was mildly frustrating because apparently Connor Siebold is the best pitcher on the planet. I got them number 1. They are my most exposed stack. As of right now, I have 50 five-mans of the Boston Red Sox. I would like them to be the team today. I assume you're going to be in a similar boat.
They're my third highest owned stack right now.
Okay.
But the way mine look, it's like 3 teams I'm getting a lot of, and then some other teams that I'm just getting, here and there. And Boston is one of the 3.
Yeah, the price is great. I mean, the guys that have it, like Rafael Devers at 5,600. If he's 10%, like I'm just happy to pay that price tag. 5,400 for Yoshida at this point. I'm happy to pay for that price tag at 6% ownership. I actually like the ownership situation for Boston today, even at third. Like this is a spot that I just want to be. The Rockies just have to be bad one of these days.
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. And to the point I was making earlier, not that, you don't, if you're stacking Boston, not that you don't want to play Yoshida, Devers, Verdugo. Don't sleep on Turner and Duvall. These are your 2 best right-handed power bats in this lineup in Fenway against a pitcher that's been reverse splits for basically his entire career.
Anything that we should be adding here for the Boston side of this one?
No, I just wanted to make sure I said what I just said.
Like, you think they're properly owned at 9% aggregate?
I mean, I have 20%, so I guess not.
Well, same. Well, what I mean is, like, they're also third for you, similar as the actual rank of ownership too. So like they're not, I don't see anything like that's weird about their ownership.
No, I think it's perfectly fine. And when you look, actually the thing that's interesting about their ownership, and I was hoping it was going to be the opposite, the 3 guys pulling the most ownership are the 3 right-handed bats, and there are 3 of the 4 right-handed bats in the lineup. Arroyo number 1 at 13% because he's very inexpensive. Turner 12%, Duvall 11%. Tristan Casas coming in at 10. Devers 9. Casas and Devers both about 9.5. So you don't have like a big ownership drop off there, but it was interesting to me that the bats that I actually like the most are the ones that are the most popular.
Eric Johnson wants to know, why would we stack the chalk team? That chalk Adam Duvall with 12% ownership today.
Yeah. I mean, he's been using the word chalk for like 3 years and still doesn't know what it means, I don't think.
Yeah. You would tell me not to play 33% on Scherzer. I can get behind that one probably. I'm not, but this is that they're not chalk.
Rockies, I mean, it's a 14-game slate. Like, ownership's just so diluted, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Rockies bats?
I got a very small amount of Colorado. One of the lower implied run totals on the slate. Good park, but obviously not as good as their home park. It's also not great hitting weather here. It looks like the wind is blowing in a little bit, but also low to mid 60s in the middle of June. You're going to find some better hitting weather.
Rank the game.
Red Sox, Crawford, Rockies, Anderson.
There we go. If this game we're in Coors, Anderson might be 1 for me. Anyway, let's hit that like button first and foremost. 430 people in here, 54 likes. We need to get up and over that 100 mark. Schedule for the rest of the day, simple. MLB Live before lock coming up next. They will take you from 6 o'clock all the way up until first pitch of the first game. But I also have to talk to you guys about BetPro. Adam knows quite a bit about BetPro because Adam does a BetPro video. How often do you do a BetPro video, Adam?
Every weekday.
Every single weekday, folks. You can get the goods from Adam's side. So to start, we got a link in the description. Trial month, $25 for your first 30 days. It is normally $30 a week or $100 a month. You guys know we've been around in this DFS space for a minute now. We've built out models on the back end with Alex Baker, Osimo himself, Shanzon, Steve Buzzard, you know him as DeColts. They've built out these models over the past couple of years. Now we're taking them from the DFS side and applying them to sports betting. Product has been fantastic since the jump, 2.2% ROI over the lifespan of BetPro. That might not sound like a really big number. I promise you that it is. When you use BetPro, you're going to get expected value calculation. So you're going to know exactly what you're expecting to get out of the bet you're placing. There's expected win rates on those bets. This is easy. There's injury designation. So if there's something going on weird on the back end, if somebody's, on the NBA side, for example, if somebody's questionable, some of those props might look a little bit different because, maybe it matters if Nikola Jokic plays or not. We notate that so that you don't immediately just jump into a bet that seems a little too good to be true. I highly recommend you guys check this out. I know everybody on our back end is using it. It seems to be going pretty well for everybody. The moment that I get legalized sports betting in North Carolina, this will be something that I use every single day moving forward. I can't wait. I wish that I could take advantage. I'll get it for free. Lucky for me. You guys can get it for $25 for the next 30 days if you click the link in the description. Move on to game number 4, Twins and Brewers. Pablo Lopez, Corbin Burns, hell of a pitching matchup here. I'm going to start in reverse for what we normally do. Any scenario where you're going to the hitting on either side of this game?
I don't really see it. Two good pitchers. I think the best case that you could make is that the Twins are very inexpensive, but that still only goes so far on a slate of this size. So I don't really see getting to the bats. Looking at the lineups, if the slate started right now, I would have a Minnesota stack. And by A, I mean 1.
I have 2 lineups with Julian leading off at 2,800. Fantastic price tag for a second baseman. That is the most exposure I have of anybody in this game that isn't a pitcher. Pablo Lopez, on the other hand, 34% owned at 8,800. Corbin Burns, 19% owned at 9,900. Which pitcher do you want to have more of?
I have more Lopez by a lot. I got to about 38% Lopez, about 12% Burns. And one thing that was really interesting to me to Burns, and this probably won't mean much to most people, but anybody that is familiar or has used the Sims tool will sort of understand what I'm getting at here. I'd said it to you before the show that in the pool of lineups that I was simulating, Burns actually wasn't showing up nearly as much as we're projecting him to be owned. In theory, that should make him show up in more of my lineups because it's projecting him to be low owned. He still only showed up 12%. So that was kind of surprising to me. Makes me think that I'm probably just not going to get to much of him, which I don't love because he does have a really good strikeout matchup here. He did start the season out slowly, but we've seen him turn things around. And you're not giving into recency bias by saying that. This is somebody that for years has been a very, very good pitcher. So when he started the year out slowly, the assumption should have been he's going to figure it out very soon. And it appears that he has. So I like Burns here. Again, personally, I don't have a ton of him, but I would not be upset if that changes. Good strikeout matchup against Minnesota. 3.9 implied run total. Good pitcher's park. The thing that moves Lopez ahead of him, though, and makes me think I'm going to continue getting a lot of Lopez, is he is sort of in his own price tier. Most of the pitching I like today is between like $9,600 and $10,500. So Lopez coming in at 8,800 is really appealing. You get a good strikeout matchup against Milwaukee. You get a good pitcher's park. You get a very good pitcher. Lopez has the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 28.5%, 3.63 xFIP. So all of those things, the value component plays a pretty big role. Makes me think I'm going to get a lot of Lopez regardless. The Burns piece is, I said it before, in theory, I like the idea of turning some of the Scherzer into Burns. Some of that Scherzer, but that's not how it worked out for me. I'm not going to force that to happen. But if it's something that you want to do with your lineups, it's I think a good idea.
I don't have anything to add there. I'm actually a little under on Pablo Lopez, but I do have 24%. But do think he stands out. I'm happy to get there. I think I just have an overwhelming amount of Scherzer, and it's limiting the amount I can get of anybody else. I wish I had more Burns. I have 9%. We're projecting 19. Basically, everything you just said about Burns is true to me. I would love to convert a little bit of that, but I'm not going to do that. So I can get, if you're hand building a lineup and you start with Scherzer and want to turn that into Burns instead for an extra $100, I love that idea in a single entry contest. But the way that I'm approaching it right now, I'm going to have probably less than the field of Corbin Burns.
Yeah, and I mean, also when I look at the stuff that I crunched, it does, I guess, kind of make sense to me. I don't think Scherzer is twice as likely to be a top 2 pitcher as Burns. But also when I crunch lineups, I'm getting, even before I simulate them all, I'm getting way more Scherzer. So, it's a spot where my brain is telling me one thing, the computer is doing something else. I'm always going to side with the data and things that are smarter than me. But I still think Burns is a good play.
Yeah, I had Scherzer 29% optimal, Burns 14. That seems to jive in my head.
Yeah, I had 35 to 10.
Okay, even more extreme.
Yeah, I do think that I told you I had changed something a little bit with how I did that. Yeah. So I think it probably ends up closer to yours.
Lopez, Burns, Twins, Brewers.
Lopez, Burns, Twins, Brewers. Yeah.
Cardinals and Giants, 4.4 run implied total for the Cardinals, 4.3 for the Giants. Jack Flaherty going for St. Louis, Alex Cobb going for the Giants. This is sort of like the Twins Brewers game. Two really solid enough pitchers. Cobb probably a little bit better than Flaherty at this point. Maybe not necessarily from a fantasy perspective, but 9% ownership to Flaherty, 2% to Alex Cobb. Do you want either one of these pitchers? I feel like we're wasting like these two guys for like a Wednesday start when the slate looks different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting around 10% Flaherty now. That I can take or leave that. I don't really care. It's not a good matchup against the Giants. This has been one of the best teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. You're getting them outside of San Francisco, but there are some strikeouts there, and Flaherty has put up good strikeout numbers this year at about 24% strikeout percentage. That's pretty much the only thing he's done well. He's walking 13% of hitters, 4.48 xFIP. But, the strikeout stuff's there. He's only 8K. You're going to have a lot of ownership coming into Joe Musgrove in this price range, and I think deservedly so. But in non-Musgrove lineups, Flaherty looks like one of the better pivots you can get to. So I'm fine with that. Cobb's a little bit more expensive than Flaherty. He's not showing up for me, but I do think he's a pretty similar play. Cobb is the better pitcher in terms of run prevention. He's also not quite as good at getting strikeouts. He's got a tough team to strike out in St. Louis. Neither one of these guys have ideal matchups. So it's mostly just if they land in lineups here or there, that's fine. I do expect I get the Flaherty more than I get the Cobb.
I have 4% Flaherty. I have none of Cobb. I don't have the bats in this game. This feels a lot like a just giant cross off for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. I don't hate the idea of getting to the Giants in large field stuff just because Flaherty, I think, is still pretty volatile. He hasn't had home run issues this year, but like Neil and I were talking about it this morning, that elevated walk percentage, if it's just walks, it's not great for stacking against, but a lot of times that can also at least within one start, translate to instead of walking guys, you're just working behind in counts constantly. And if you end up giving in hitters counts, things can get pretty ugly in a hurry. So get that combined with how good the Giants offense has been. I don't think they're bad, but I'm also not getting to them. And there are a lot of good spots to get to. I guess the Giants to me are kind of like the Orioles.
Okay.
Not the same.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like the Orioles were more. I could specifically say like I like them in this park against this pitcher, but for the Giants, it's still kind of like, well, I wouldn't be shocked if they do well, but at the end of the day, am I really going to allocate that much to taking hitters against Jack Flaherty on a slate where you have Chase Anderson pitching and Jordan Lyles pitching and the dude for the Rangers pitching? It's kind of tough.
The only thing that ever makes me nervous for the Giants is the pinch hit risk. Like they're just,
I don't worry about it as much against righties.
So I was going to say sort of something different in that I don't worry about it as much if I'm just like one-offing these guys. Like I don't see that like to me, like are they a stack today? Yeah. But on a 14 gamer, like if I'm not immediately getting to a ton of them, if I'm just getting like scatter shot of the Giants, then I don't even pay attention to it. But if I run it and it's like, oh, I have 35 5-man Giant stacks, then I'm going to start looking at it like, oh no, do I need to like make a tweak here? How many of these guys are going to go away in the end?
Yeah, so I don't worry about it as much against right-handed pitching because, for one, teams just don't have as many lefty relievers. The Cardinals look like they have one, maybe two available. I don't know if Matz is available today. But also, the Giants' best players are left-handed. So it's one thing when you're getting like Austin Slater in there with, Yastrzemski or Peterson on the bench. Slater is coming out of the game as soon as a right-handed pitcher comes in. When you're starting Peterson, Conforto, Yastrzemski, if they match up lefty-lefty, you could see Slater pinch hit later, but it's more difficult for them to do that since they only have one or two. And you also have this lineup where, like, if you bring a lefty in for Jack Peterson, great. He also has to face JD Davis before he gets to Conforto. He has to face Haniger before he gets to Yastrzemski. So it's just more difficult to do that.
All right. Rank the game.
Flaherty, Cobb, Giants, Cards, I guess.
Yeah, not a lot to rank here, so we'll keep it moving. We're going to go game 6, Cubs and Pirates. Jamison Taillon on the hill for the Cubs, 4.6 run implied total. Luis Ortiz going for the Pirates, 4.1 run implied total. 3% ownership coming into Taillon, no ownership coming into Ortiz. I have 9% of Taillon right now. It's fine. He's a pay down option. I don't really have much to add here. You're probably not prioritizing pitching.
No. So also keep an eye on the weather in this game. It does seem like it's improved since this morning when it looked like it was just going to be a washout. So as of now, I'm anticipating this game plays until I hear otherwise, but definitely something to keep an eye on. It's the only game that we really have significant risk. Jamison Taillon is underpriced at 5,700. He is not great by any stretch, but he's a fully stretched out starting pitcher. He has a 21% strikeout percentage this year, 4.76 xFIP. He's actually been just flat out solid against right-handed bats. It's lefties that have gotten to him, and that doesn't help you a ton when you have 5 lefties in the top 6 for the Pirates. But he is just, a bit underpriced. He should probably be like 6,500, 7K, something like that. So I'm getting to a very small amount of him. I wouldn't care if it completely goes away. But yeah, if you need to pay down, he's okay. I think it's more difficult to get to Ortiz, who has been terrible against both sides of the plate. Cubs have a higher implied run total by about a half run. He's more expensive. So if I'm going to pitching here, I think it's just getting a little bit of time.
Okay. Well, now I have to ask you this question, and I don't even know if it's going to matter. Obviously, the weather is going to be very important for this one, but potentially wind blowing out. How do you feel about the Cubs bats? Because they're a problem for me, and this seems to be the team that I'm getting that no one else is getting.
I'm not getting them, and I wish that I was. I actually kind of feel like that for the Pirates too. But
I love this, because now when I win today with a Cubs stack, it is really going to stick in your craw. So this is great. Perfect.
I hope
Tell me more.
I hope they score like 5 runs in the first inning and then get rained out in the third.
Do you remember that Red Sox? I think it was the Red Sox game, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, where they hit like a shit ton of bombs early, and then it got shut down, and people
before they changed the rule. Yeah, vaguely.
I want to say it might have been like the first year that you guys were here, and they like went off in the first couple innings.
I vaguely remember just sweating it out like we're about to lose all of these points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk to me about the Cubs at no ownership whatsoever.
Yeah. Ortiz hasn't struck guys out this year. Limited sample. He's thrown like 500 total pitches, less than 500 total pitches, but 16% strikeout percentage to righties, 8% to lefties, 259 expected ISO to lefties with a 423 expected WOBA, 396 expected WOBA to righties, 263 expected ISO. The guy just hasn't been a major league pitcher to this point, and the wind is blowing out a bit. It is like 60 degrees, so that's not ideal, but you have solid power here. Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ in particular, Dansby Swanson, although he is expensive. So I think they're pretty interesting. Matt Mervis has power, and you're facing a pitcher that just does not strike lefties out. This is a team where on smaller slates, I think I'd be getting a lot. I don't mind that I'm not getting them when I look at the teams that I am getting to. Yeah. But they're another one. There's a lot of teams like this on this slate. Again, similar to the Orioles, where like if I crunch stuff, if I submit my lineups, my final set of lineups, and I'm like, oh, I'm 2-3x the field on the Orioles, the Cubs, the Giants, I'm not going to be upset about any of that. But you're also talking about there being 28 offenses and having a limited number of lineups to play. So I'm not getting there. But again, I think that they are a perfectly fine offense to get to.
Yeah. So they are my second most exposed stack right now. I am heavy to the Cubs. Do you think that the ownership is muted a little bit because of the weather?
Maybe, but also I think this game just isn't actually that appealing from a projection standpoint.
I just have them so different, and maybe we'll see this differently if we rerun top stacks. Like maybe I grabbed this at a time when the lineup came out differently. We have them 18th in top value. I have them 4th. This is a free-ish lineup other than Nico Herner or Dansby Swanson. $2,700 leadoff hitter, multiple 2K guys at the bottom of the order with MPEs. Like, to me, there's just a lot of flexibility and cheapness here. I'm surprised they're not higher than 18th in value.
In the crunch that I ran, 5-man stack wise, Pittsburgh showed up the 9th most often, and the Cubs showed up 10th most often.
Okay. And yeah, in theory, I would have a little bit of interest in the Pittsburgh side. I don't have any right now. It seems to all be going to the Cubs, but it looks like I'm hitching my wagon to the Chicago Cubs today at very, very minimal ownership. So I assume it gets rained out, but look, on a slate like this, I kind of want to have one team that I have that nobody else really has. And for me right now, it appears to be the Cubs. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. SMP said, for what it's worth, too, the Pirates are doing something weird mechanically with their young pitchers. Ruining their young pitchers isn't weird anymore. It's kind of just what they do.
Yeah. Don't worry. They'll be great once they're on the Yankees or whatever team they end up on. Probably the Yankees. Rank the game.
Cubs, Pirates, Taillon, Ortiz.
I think mine's probably Cubs, Taillon, Pirates, Ortiz, but you can flip-flop those two around in the middle, and I don't really care too much. Go Cubbies, I guess. Go Cubbies. Rangers and Angels. 5.1 run implied total for the Rangers, 4.7 for the Angels. Cody Bradford going for Texas, Jaime Barria going for the Angels. And it took me so long to say that dude's name correctly. Bradford.
Jamie Barria.
Yeah. Yeah. For the most part. Yeah. I mean, when I did my first show with Jake, I had not been paying attention to baseball or like covering baseball at that point in time. So a lot of names were new to me.
Yeah.
No ownership coming into these pitchers. I don't know if they ever added Bradford to the player pool for DraftKings. Okay, well then we don't have to talk about him at all. Jaime Barria, 7,300 unowned. Is that a spot you want to get to?
No. He's made 3 starts now this year. He's gone exactly 5 innings in those starts, and now he gets a brutal matchup against Texas. 5.2 implied run total. Obviously, like you said, Bradford not in the player pool. One interesting note on Bradford though is that he did throw 8 innings at AAA on the 9th. So I assume he's not going that deep into this game. I don't entirely know why he's pitching at all, but seems pretty strange for the middle of June to be just grabbing some dude from the minor leagues. Like, hey, you threw 100 pitches 3 days ago. Let's do it again.
Well, how does that make you feel for the Angels side of this one? No Trout, though.
Yeah, no Trout is obviously disappointing. I'm not getting to the Angels. I thought that I would, but I'm not. So another spot where, add them to the list of teams that I like, but am not getting to. No Trout obviously does weaken the lineup. It does make it better from a value standpoint. The only hitter in this lineup on DraftKings north of 4,300 is Ohtani, which obviously you're fine with. Every hitter other than Ohtani and Drury is 3,700 or less. So really, really cheap offense with a 4.8 implied run total against a pitcher that doesn't project to be very good. So I think the Angels are another good stack.
Are you getting to the Rangers side of this one? We have them very, very highly rated. 3rd in top stack, 6th in ownership. I am not getting there.
I'm not getting there either. They did show up 3rd most often as a 5-man stack in the crunch that I ran, but in terms of the lineups that I'd be playing, I'm not really getting there. And this is another one of the spots that I was alluding to, similar to Boston, similar to the Blue Jays, where the Rangers are a good stack. They have a 5.2 implied run total. They're one of the best offenses in baseball. The ceiling is massive. Jaime Barria has been fantastic this year. He, again, mostly is a reliever, but he has a 24% strikeout percentage overall, sub 4 xFIP. In his 3 starts, about a 26% strikeout percentage, 3.65 xFIP. His expected ISO to both left-handed and right-handed hitters is below 100. Like, he has been really, really, really good. And again, 5.2 implied run total, really good offense. It's very unlikely Barria just does this the entire season. Today certainly could be the day that he gets blown up, but it's just another spot where one of these teams with, an implied run total north of 5, I'm looking at it like, yeah, I get it. They're a good offense, but I don't like the matchup.
Same. Maybe, I guess we're on sort of the same page here. I have, scattered amounts of these guys. I had an aggregate of 29%, like just adding everybody's exposures up, like 7% Seager, 5% Semi, and they're not stacked at all. So these guys are just filler for me, and I'm pretty much okay with that. And then I don't really have much of the Angel side. I am rerunning that now. It was basically the same story. Everything that I had here wasn't stacked. We'll see if that's a little bit different now. We got like 9 lineups in the time that we were from the time we started the show. So I started rerunning everything now.
Chunk to Deuce also. I had that same thought earlier. Texas brought up a pitcher from Double A today, so entirely possible you see them piggyback.
Yeah, that would not be shocking in any way. So we can address that. Well, we don't have to address it at all. I don't think it really matters.
As far as I can
the game,
look, I mean, the guy hasn't pitched above Double A. He projects. So Steamer has him projected for a 4.9 FIP. That's the only Fangraphs projection model that has anything for him. At Double A this year, 11 starts, struck out 21% of hitters. Yeah, like this isn't somebody where I'm thinking about it in terms of like, oh no, what if Bradford only goes 1 inning and they bring in this dude that hasn't pitched above Double A?
Rank the game.
One of the offenses, then the other offense, then Barria.
Well, there you go. Can't get any more detailed than that. It's
a weird one. Like the Rangers, I think you have to put the Rangers first just because they have the higher implied run total and they project better. But
sure,
I like when I just look at the matchups, I like the Angels more. So it's kind of like I don't really know how to rank that one. And the Angels are a hell of a lot cheaper. So again, I'm not getting either offense. I hope that changes because I do like this spot.
The only thing better than Adam's take right there is for you guys signing up at Underdog, sponsor of this show. Want to get your first deposit doubled up to $100? You can do that using the promo code Stokastic. If you click the link in the description of this video. Now, you got to be 18 or over, generally speaking. There's some technicalities of 21 or 19, depending on some other weird states, but generally 18. Look into it for yourself. You got to call 1-800-GAMBLER if you are a little bit concerned with your play. But today seems like a really great day to sign up at Underdog because they've got a little bit of a free square going on today. Zach Wheeler over 0.5 pitches. Should be pretty easy to handle today. As long as you can get one in, you're going to be fine. Take the higher on that one. It's just going to make things a little bit easier. They got pick'em contests for people that are in non-legal states. You can win up to 20 times your money. They've got daily fantasy contests. But the big time, the big seller here for Underdog, going to be their best ball. In particular, football best ball. Massive at Underdog. Adam, what is the prize pool for best ball at Underdog this year?
A lot.
There we go.
I think it's
a lot.
I think it's like 3 million the first, and then maybe like another million for highest score.
Can't beat that, folks. So if you're interested in fantasy football and best ball, you're in luck. But pick'em contests right now on the MLB side, we could help out big time there. I mean, maybe you could sign up for a pick'em pro package or an odd shop or pick'em package. Help yourself out a little bit on the Underdog side. But what you really should do, and I want to be focused on this, if you're at Underdog right now, if you're already there or you're signing up right now, Zach Wheeler free square, higher or lower than 0.5 pitches. He's just got to get one done, and all of a sudden you immediately get that one in the books. That's just going to help you win a little bit more money. Take advantage of these free squares whenever you can. And please, just sign up at Underdog. Easy stuff. Astros and Nats. 5.1 run implied total for the Stros, 3.2 for the Nats. Hunter Brown and Patrick Corbin. Brown, 18% owned at 10,500, the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. Pat Corbin, unowned at 6,400. How do you want to manage Hunter Brown here, who is in like an okay spot, I guess? Not a lot of strikeouts, though, in this Washington lineup.
Yeah, tough strikeout matchup. Good matchup overall in terms of run prevention. And arguably the best pitcher on the slate in terms of talent. He is the most expensive on DraftKings, 3.07 or 3.09 xFIP, 28% strikeout percentage. He's really, really good. If you can find the salary, great. I'm only getting like 8 to 10% right now. Certainly wouldn't be surprised if that goes up in my final crunch, especially if like Scherzer comes down a little bit or Lopez comes down a little bit. Certainly happy to get the Brown, but the strikeout matchup is tough. Like you said, 19% strikeout percentage on the Nats active roster against right-handed pitching this year. So that's not ideal, but he is a big favorite. He is a very, very good pitcher. If you can find the salary, great.
Okay. Corbin?
I'm good.
Figured as much.
Yeah.
Astros bats, 4th in top stack, 3rd in top value, number 1 in aggregate ownership. A lot of that is just Altuve, Diaz, and Dubon. Talk to me about Houston here against Corbin.
They're my highest owned stack right now. Really, really nice combination of upside and value. You mentioned that they're the highest owned stack coming in at 12%, but also a 9% chance of being the top value stack in addition to a 6% chance of being the top stack. They're tied with Boston rather, in stack score, which is the metric that we use to combine top stack percentage and top value percentage. So it's important to keep the value component in mind. If you're just looking at the top stacks tool and looking at top stack percentage and ownership, which a lot of times is sort of the way we talk about it on shows, it's like, oh, they're going, incredibly overowned. But when you factor in that this lineup is very inexpensive, they look pretty good. You have Mauricio Dubon with MPE leading off at 3,500. Altuve is going to look like probably your best second base play. Bregman's one of your best third base plays. The only hitter in this lineup above 4,600 is Kyle Tucker. He's also the only lefty in the lineup. And Kyle Tucker, obviously, you can play against anybody. But Patrick Corbin this year, allowing a 207 expected ISO and 395 expected WOBA to righties, only striking out 14%, getting to tons of Houston.
Are you getting to any of the Nats? That seems like a more difficult place to get yourself.
Yeah, I'm not. This is another one of those spots where whether I get to Hunter Brown or not, I don't think I need to compound it by going to the Nats on a 14-game slate.
No, not the spot you're looking for.
It is not.
Okie dokie. I'm about to run a new crunch once we got all of those additional lineups in. So I'm just clicking around here. Can you rank that game for me?
Astros, Brown, Nats, Corbin.
Astros, Brown, Nats, Corbin. Okay.
I mean, if you want to go Corbin over Nats, I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm good. For once, I don't have Corbin. That's making me feel a little bit better. So let's move on. We'll go Royals and Reds. 4.9 run implied total for the Royals, 4.9 over implied total for the Reds. Jordan Lyles and Brandon Williamson, 4% ownership coming into Lyles, 1% coming into Brandon Williamson. Williamson, probably the worst pitcher on today's slate, just in general. Maybe your mileage may vary. I had a couple shares of Lyles. I'm not advocating for Lyles, but it's not like he was a complete zero for me, even though he is generally a complete zero in life. Yeah. Are we going to any pitching here?
I did want to follow up real quick. Josh Gillum said Corbin's been a little bit better lately, a lot of ground balls. I've said it a lot. I think Corbin is he's not good, but he might be the most, I don't know how to word it, like people overestimate how bad he is. I think in large part because his contract is absolutely absurd. But the guy's got like a 4.36 xFIP this year. He's not a horrible real life pitcher. He's a really bad DFS pitcher because he doesn't get strikeouts and he gets hit hard by right-handed bats, which is all you're getting from Houston. So I love Houston, but I really don't think Patrick Corbin is as bad as people give him credit for. Some of it is as bad as people give him credit for is Jordan Lyles. And that being said, he's still showing up in like 10% of my lineups right now, which I do not like, but he is very inexpensive at $5,500. He's got an okay matchup against the Reds in Kauffman Stadium. If that goes away, great. But I'm getting to him a little bit. I'm curious to see what my lineups look like that have him. Probably
not good.
Well, Astros with like 5-man Astros, 2-man Tampa Bay, 5-man Kansas City, 2-man Milwaukee with Mookie. That's not my favorite, but 5-man Toronto with the Phillies, 5-man Houston with the Phillies, another 5-man Phillies. So, I mean, where I'm using him, it's, I'm getting up to like Turner, Harper, Schwarber. I'm getting to, the expensive Blue Jays bats. So the lineups for the most part, at least, makes sense.
Let's talk bats. Number 2 value team is the Royals. They're 3rd in aggregate ownership. The Reds are 4th. Lots of ownership just coming into hitting in general in this game. What side do you prefer? And why is it the Royals?
It's always the Royals. Yeah, I'll say I'm getting a ton of KC. They're my second highest owned team right now. I am not getting a ton of Cincinnati, which, again, wouldn't be mad if that changed because I do think Jordan Lyles sucks. But Ellie De La Cruz showing up in like 8% of my lineups. He is my highest owned Red. Kansas City showing up a lot, though. And it's for the same reasons as usual. The entire lineup is cheap, except for Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt. And at their respective positions, I have them as 2 of the best plays. Witt, he hasn't been great at the major league level so far, but does still give you substantial power upside and stolen base upside. Salvador Perez is always going to be one of your highest upside catcher options. In the crunch that I ran, so before I figured out what lineups I'd even be playing, Perez was showing up as the top catcher for me. Witt was showing up as the top shortstop. Michael Garcia was showing up as the second best shortstop play, and he also has third base eligibility. So it's just a really, really good value stack. We have them 5th in stack score, 10% chance of being the top value, 4% chance of being the top stack. Williamson's made 5 starts so far this year. He has been very bad, striking out just shy of 18% of hitters, walking 11%, giving up 2 home runs per 9, 5.64 xFIP. None of the projection systems on FanGraphs think he's going to be any good this year. So it's not like somebody I'm looking at saying like, oh, well, he's off to a rocky start, but he's young. He's going to figure it out soon. Doesn't seem likely that's going to happen. So very happy to get to KC. And again, to reiterate, the Reds look good as well. I think the reason I'm getting more of KC is just the value component, but Jordan Lyles has allowed 2.2 home runs per 9 this year. And looking at his expected ISO numbers, he has not been particularly unlucky. 257 expected ISO to righties, 259 actual, 245 expected ISO to lefties, 279 actual. So, a little bit unlucky there, but still just objectively terrible. The Reds look good. I think it's really just the value is pushing KC up more for me.
I was basically neutral to both of these teams. I had what's the ownership? Like 9% aggregate to the Royals, 8% to the Reds. That's basically exactly where I was. Scattered 5-mans across both. They were my fourth and sixth most exposed teams. I was a little under to the Royals. I had a little bit more of the Reds. I'm rerunning now to see where we stand, but I did have the Red Sox ahead of them. I did have the Cubs ahead of them, and I did have the Astros ahead of them. We're going to bats in this one, though, as a priority, right? But can you rank them? I guess you're going Royals, Reds. Who cares?
I mean, I guess I'm going Royals, Lyles, Reds, Williamson, but in reality, I think it's Royals, Reds, Lyles, Williamson.
You love Jordan Lyles.
Yeah, former Oriole.
That's why, man. You can't quit these guys. Jordan Lyles is like your Brokeback Mountain pitcher.
Former Oriole that now pitches for the Royals. Sign me up.
Are there any other former Orioles on the Royals right now? I mean, these are your two teams.
Yeah, I'll say not that I know of.
Okay. Padres and Guardians, 4.2 run implied total for the Pods, 3.4 for the Guardians, Joe Musgrove and Tanner Bibee. 21% ownership coming into Musgrove, 2% to Bibee. What do you want to do with Musgrove?
Is that how his name is pronounced?
That's how I'm pronouncing it.
Okay. Yeah, Musgrove looks good. He's kind of like Pablo Lopez in that he's just sort of in a price range by himself. Not to say that there aren't other reasonable options you can get to in that range, whether that's Flaherty, Gonsolin, whoever. But he does look like the best in that price range at 7,800. So he's showing up around 25 to 30% for me. Not a good strikeout matchup against Cleveland, but a good matchup overall. Second best pitcher's park in terms of park factor over the last 3 years. 60 degrees in San Diego, good pitching weather, 3.4 implied run total. Musgrove's a perfectly competent pitcher, 23% strikeout percentage, 4.09 xFIP. So just as a value play, he's showing up a good amount. I'm not getting to Bibby. I do think that
Bibby, by the way.
Is it Bibby?
Yeah.
That is not how I was ever going to guess it.
No, and I'm not just screwing around or anything here. That per Cal State Fullerton, that's what it was originally. So
okay, yeah. I hadn't even bothered to look it up because I thought it was pretty straightforward. But
Josh Gillum wrong again. No surprise there.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean that's what any normal person is going to look at it and say.
Actually, no, I thought it was Bibby, not Bibby.
I prefer Bibby, but
I was very confident it wasn't that.
Yeah, you should have been.
Yeah. So yeah, like he's another one where like in a lineup, if you wanted to say, this guy's getting 1 to 2% ownership and Musgrove's getting 20 plus in this range, he's got a similar range of outcomes, but more difficult matchup against the Padres, a little bit more expensive. I'd just going to Musgrove.
Are my lineups done? They are. Do we have anything new that I need to touch on? Am I getting to Bibby at all? Probably not.
The way you're saying that is so annoying. It's going to be stuck in my head now.
Oh, that makes it even better then, right?
No.
I have one share of Bibby, actually. I hope that ruins you. I hope he goes to the Orioles now, too, and you have to hear it a lot. I have less Cubs now, by the way.
No, now they're definitely will.
Oh, I have less Cubs because now I have all of the Pirates.
I do kind of like that.
I have 9% aggregate Cubs, which is still pretty good when they're fully unowned. So yay there. Let's talk bats, I guess. Or not. Yeah, 17th in ownership for the Padres, 23rd for the Guardians. No,
I'm trying to figure out what the hell Eric's talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
I'm trying to make the connection to Moira from Schitt's Creek.
Oh, I would never watch that show. I have respect for myself. Padres, for me...
wrong on that one, but...
No, I'm 100% right. That show's terrible.
No.
Terrible. Katie made me watch the pilot. Just be like, I love this. Watch it. I didn't smile once. Not even that was a good one. I've never been more irritated people in my life. I actually had the Padres 7th in my top stack, a lot higher than we have them currently. Probably a little too high, maybe just relying too much on the raw talent and the functionality of the lineup. Do you have any interest in either side of this one? I like targeting Babi. I don't really like I don't have them. I just wanted to say his name again.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting to the offense this year. Cleveland has been a team that I've gotten a good amount of this year, which is probably why I have no money anymore. But not doing it here against Musgrove. And then on the other side, like you said, you do have the talent for the Padres. Just throw them onto the list of teams where, like, if you're playing them, I'm not going to tell you not to, but they don't really show up as that good of a play. It is, again, a really tough hitter's park, not great hitting weather, and there's just a million other good teams.
Josh is right. Josh is correct. A lot of people on our side here. Hit the like button if you're with me on this one, and hit the like button if you're on Adam's side as well. I assume one of you'll hit either one, but yeah, I do not like that show at all.
Effect MD said, "What's the verdict on weather for Cubs Pirates?" There isn't one. It seems like it's improved since this morning, but still got to keep an eye out. And I'm just assuming the game plays until I hear otherwise at this point, but still pretty up in the air.
My biggest issue, I don't know where I was going with that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, back to Schitt's Creek. My biggest issue, and I don't mean this negatively, I just can't help it. I can't look at Eugene Levy as anyone other than Jim's dad from American Pie.
Yeah, that's always a problem. But it does help that he plays a ridiculous dad character in Schitt's Creek.
I don't like the premise of the show. Like the, rich people living a poor life type, how everyone will like dictate that out of the gate. Like, yeah. I don't agree with it in any way. And I don't find it interesting. I don't know. Josh's favorite show is Rick and Morty. I mean, kind of. It's not Rick and Morty, but you got to break that down by genre. There's too many options.
Yeah, I mean, like me and Neil got sidetracked on this with Seinfeld the other day, and like a couple people in chat were getting really mad and aggressively insulting Neil because I guess we didn't like Seinfeld enough. But then whoever it was was also claiming it's a top 5 TV show. Like network TV from 2 decades ago, sure, but like HBO just destroys it. Like you have to have genres for this.
I'm a massive Seinfeld fan. Like I was watching it as much as I can remember in the ramp up to it coming off the air, which it did while I was in middle school. So like, it's not like I was even getting a lot of it and I was seeing towards the end of it. But I am a massive Seinfeld fan.
I didn't like Seinfeld for a while. I finally watched it start to finish. I got through it start to finish within the last few years, and it finally grew on me. Me and Neil had this whole conversation where I don't find, I know I'm wrong, I don't find Jerry Seinfeld or Larry David particularly funny. But it did finally grow on me. At some point in the next decade, I assume we'll start to like Curb. But so anyway, we were talking about that, and it just turned into like it's a top 5 TV show of all time. It's like, no, it's absolutely not if you're just talking about all TV shows.
I'm just a really big Michael Richards guy,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. We're both wacky. That's the only reason. The only reason at all. The only reason. All right. I don't have anything else here for Padres and Guardians.
Me neither.
A's and Rays. 3.8 run implied total for the A's, although it should be more than that because they don't lose. 5.2 for the Rays. Hulk Hogan Harris going for Oakland. Jalen Beeks going for the Rays. No ownership to Harris. We don't have Beeks. I don't think that you should be playing Beeks at 8,300 unless I'm missing something.
You kind of went 0 for 2 on the pitching here, but sort of. So Beeks is opening for Tampa, most likely being followed by Yanni Chirinos.
Well, that's not how one of our competitors has it listed.
Fujinama is apparently opening for Oakland and being followed by Harris.
Yeah. Well, I got Harris right, and there's not anybody else listed for Beeks, so I got it right.
Yeah. And look,
Beeks is going like 3 innings or whatever, probably. Right.
So to clarify the Chirinos thing, I haven't seen it confirmed anywhere. It's just sort of the assumption. He last pitched on the 8th. Beeks doesn't go more than a couple innings. So it's likely to be Chirinos. If you are playing him at 6,100, there is risk that he just doesn't step on the field, but likely that he's getting the follow-up work today. Either way, though, I'm not getting to either pitcher here, so it doesn't matter too much.
Okay, well, that's easy enough to deal with. How much do you want to get to the Rays? 11th in ownership.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting there too, just because of the pricing. It's a really shitty park, which doesn't help. They're expensive. Other than that, happy to get there. They obviously have a very high ceiling, but there's just so many good offenses I can get to where I don't have to pay as much that it's tough. But again, like I mentioned, in one of those Jordan Lyles lineups, I had a 5-man Houston stack with like a Rosarena and Wander Franco. Absolutely love doing something like that. I think it's just gonna be tough to do a lot of full 5-man stacks when Franco's 5,900, Diaz is 5K, Rosarena is 5,700, and as good as this offense is, if you're not including multiples of those guys, I don't really like it that much.
I have a little bit of the Rays side, nothing too crazy. Right now, I have 8 5-man stacks of the Rays. They're not pulling all that much ownership. Franco is the guy that I'm getting to the most in this case, but just not a lot of exposure in general.
Yeah. It's to me, it's just, this is another one where like I would be sure, I would love to get to Tampa, but this one at least makes a little bit more sense to me why I'm not getting there, because they are so expensive. They are in a really bad hitter's park. Harris doesn't project to be terrible either. Projects for like a 22 to 24% strikeout percentage, depending on what model you're looking at. Mid-4s FIP. Not a great pitcher or anything, but somebody like Brandon Williamson right now is projecting to just be absolutely awful in the major leagues. Harris is projecting to be like a guy.
You know what's better than Harris and Fujinami and Beeks all combined?
Not your performance on this show.
Oh my God, I'm better than Scherzer at this point. The MLB Sims tool, which you've had to hear us talk about at this point, but if you haven't, we've changed up the game a little bit. We have a brand new tool that you can subscribe to right now. There's a link in the description that's going to help you out quite a bit. There's nothing else on the market right now that is like this. We are even just dropping weekly packages for our MLB Sims tool. We're giving you even more. I don't even like, what's the best way to describe it? Like, you're more hands-on with your lineups with our MLB Sims tool than you ever have before, because you're importing a pool of lineups that likely match what the field's ownership is going to look like. And after you click a button, you're going to get expected ROI calculations for that lineup, expected ROI calculations for each individual player in that lineup. This is the path that the future of DFS is on. And we beat everybody to the punch because we're awesome like that. You should be awesome with us. Technically, you can be awesome-mo with us, but not anymore. We're just Stokastic. This is the spot. It's changing everything. And you want to get in on the ground floor right now with our Sims tool. My recommendation, click the link in the description. We got MLB right now. NBA will exist in the future. I promise you, we're going to see some NFL in the future. PGA right around the corner as well. I'll actually be testing that one out later tonight. This is the change. It's the sea change. We had projections at one point. We had ownership. We had optimizers. We saw the industry change. This is the next step. The MLB Sims tool has been smashing, by the way. Check out the landing page that you can get to via the link in our description. You can see the people that are already taking advantage of everything that we have done. Kudos to the team behind the scenes for getting this one together. It's the happiest I've been about a tool that we've put out in the history of the company, and I've been here since day one. So this is the best thing that we've got. I want you guys to take advantage.
It's the least happy I've been, but it's also the best tool we've put out. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Do I wish that it didn't exist?
Right.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. If it were up to me and I didn't work for this company, I would not want this thing to exist in the public sphere.
Right.
And I know Adam wouldn't either. I want it to exist because it's good for me long-term. It is definitely bad for me short-term in DFS. It's great. It's just great. Look, we still have the lineup generator. If you're a person that's playing one lineup, two lineups, even upwards of 20 lineups, our lineup generator is a fantastic tool. You just don't have the same sort of detail that comes out of it, but it's essentially the same nuts and bolts on the back end. We're generating thousands of lineups. We're cutting all of the stuff that we don't think is any good, and we're presenting to the rest of it to you. That tool is fantastic for the if you're playing a lower amount of volume, if you're just playing one lineup a night, that is the tool you're looking for. And that hasn't changed at all. It is still fantastic. But if you're looking to really dial up your game, to play bulk lineups, if you're playing higher dollar contests, this is something that you are going to want in the long term. And you want to get it right now if you can. DFS Dope Strategies hit us with the super chat. 3 chalkiest stacks for today.
Astros, probably the ones I'm playing, I think.
It's what? Astros,
Kansas City, Boston.
There you go. All righty. We got 3 more games to go through. We are coming up against it, but we'll be able to zip through this one pretty good. Diamondbacks and Phillies, 4.2 run implied total for the D-backs, 4.6 for the Phillies. Zach Davies versus Zach Wheeler. Battle of the Zacks. One of them has to lose the letter that they have different if they lose the game. Wheeler, the only guy that you should really be paying attention to because Zach Davies is Zach Davies. What do you want to do with Wheeler at 10-1 here against the D-backs?
Not much. He's showing up in less than 5% of my lineups. He's a perfectly fine pivot in like a lineup where it's, okay, well, I have chalky stacks. I have $10,100 left. I'm going to just click Zach Wheeler instead of Max Scherzer or, something along those lines. Perfectly fine. Good pitcher, tough matchup. And that's why he's not projecting that well and not going to be that popular. But 27% K percentage this year, 3.59 xFIP. Better numbers than Scherzer, not by a lot, but better numbers, just worse matchup, a little bit higher price tag. So at low ownership, perfectly fine here and there, but not somebody I'd be going crazy on. Arizona does have a solid lineup, tough to strike out, a lot of good hitters. So yeah, just kind of a secondary tournament option.
I don't get the skunk comment. What am I missing?
Somebody told Neil that it looked like a skunk died on his chin.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it was the Seinfeld conversation. And then Neil was like, just getting here. We're talking sitcoms again. And your response was, nobody told Josh it looked like a skunk died on his chin. And I was just like,
no,
that was shaved today, but like, does it look that weird right now?
No,
like,
that was one of the
shadows are happening.
That was one of the aggressive comments that chat had for Neil when he didn't even really insult Seinfeld.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how to get myself to that point. I was like, does my chin stink? Like, what are we talking about here? Bats in this one, 21st in ownership for the Diamondbacks, 8th for the Phillies. You trying to get to the Phils here against Zach Davies? I have some.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Phillies are showing up for me like 5% of the time stack wise, and that's perfectly fine. Davies isn't a terrible pitcher in terms of limiting power, preventing runs. He's a pretty bad DFS pitcher because he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. But yeah, they look fine. He doesn't miss a lot of bats, which is always nice when you're talking about being able to get to Schwarber, Harper, Turner, Castellanos. Like these guys have a ton of power. 4.7 implied run total. Solid spot to get to.
Okay. Diamondbacks, can't see it at all.
Yeah, I'm good.
Mariners and Marlins, 3.9 run implied total for the Mariners, 3.3 for the Marlins. George Kirby and Edward Cabrera. This is very much a pitching matchup. Not that Seattle isn't good, but this is very much a pitching matchup. 15% ownership coming to Kirby, 7 to Cabrera. I didn't have as much Kirby then as I do now. I'm actually at 25% Kirby. Oh, well, perfect. Talk to me about Kirby then.
Solid spot. Good pitcher's park. Best pitcher's park in baseball over the last 3 years. Good matchup against Miami, below average offense, 91 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. The only negative really is that Miami is a tough team to strike out, 20.8% strikeout percentage in the aggregate, but that is pulled down quite a bit by their leadoff hitter striking out 5% of the time. Just absolutely absurd numbers from Luis Ariz. The rest of the lineup, not all huge strikeout threats, but Ariz is definitely pulling that number down a bit. 3.2 implied run total, slightly cheaper price tag on Kirby than most of the other pitchers in that range. So yeah, he just looks like another good option. Not the best strikeout pitcher either. Only striking out, where'd he go? Oh, he was even lower than I thought. Only striking out 20.3% of hitters, but doesn't walk guys. 3.74 xFIP. Just perfectly happy to get to Kirby.
Where did that? I had something I wanted to say that was actually like mildly interesting, and now I don't. Oh yeah, my Roto Tracker re-up today. Damn, that's expensive.
I don't even know how much it costs, honestly.
234.
Oh, for the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was a lot for just looking at numbers. Cabrera, I don't have. I wouldn't mind if I got some, but
Yeah,
like I just don't have. There's too
like
many
Wheeler,
Cabrera-like guys up there.
Right. He's like Wheeler-esque to me, where I'm not getting a lot. I think he's a good play in individual lineups if you need to save ownership. He does actually have the highest strikeout percentage on the slate. The Mariners do strike out quite a bit. League average offense against right-handed pitching. I like getting somebody like that at low ownership is nice, especially if you have a pretty popular lineup. But in most lineups where I've already taken care of ownership somewhere else, I'm going to just be getting, Scherzer, Musgrove, Lopez, Kirby.
We can ignore the offenses here, right?
Yeah. I mean, I said that yesterday, and then I still actually got a little bit of Seattle, and they went nuts, but still pretty much, yeah.
Closing it out, hit that like button, folks. 700 people here. Turning it over to live before lock in a sec. Tony Gonsolin going for the Dodgers, 5-run implied total. Lance Lynn going for the White Sox, 3.7. 6% ownership going to Gonsolin. No ownership coming to Lance Lynn. Do you see yourself getting to either guy? Because I am not.
Yeah, not really. I think Gonsolin is a decent pivot away from Musgrove for $400 more. Solid matchup with the White Sox. Good enough real-life pitcher, but I'm still mostly just getting to Musgrove. Again, it's a 14-game slate, so ownership in terms of raw numbers just ends up not being that problematic, and I just typically end up playing the guys that project the best. So getting to a lot more Musgrove, but in an individual lineup, if you needed somebody in that range and you didn't want Musgrove for ownership reasons, Flaherty for shitty matchup reasons, Gonsolin's perfectly fine, but not getting there. Lynn on the other side, really tough matchup against the Dodgers. He has good strikeout stuff overall. He's continued to have massive splits this year. Very, very good against righties. Absolute garbage against lefties. I'm not getting him against the Dodgers.
Can't believe I just typed that. Talk about the Dodgers, though. 9th in top stack. Very expensive. 10th in ownership at 4%. These guys, to me, are just sort of like mildly interesting because there's so much power, but probably not the team I'm looking for today.
Yeah, same boat. They kind of remind me of Tampa Bay, where I would love to get to the Dodgers, but they're also really expensive. And with how many cheap stacks you have today, it's just it's seemingly a lot higher probability that you're going to have two good pitchers and then a relatively inexpensive stack, as opposed to jamming in the Dodgers and then forcing yourself to play like two of Musgrove and cheaper. Not really the route that I want to go. Individually, I do really like Freeman and really like Muncy. Like I said, Lynn only striking out about 20% of left-handed hitters this year. 416 expected WOBA, 290 expected ISO. Righties, he's striking out 27.5%. 307 expected WOBA, 136 expected ISO. So that's not to, if you're getting to the Dodgers, by all means, include Betts, Smith, JD, whatever righties. But individually, Freeman and Muncy look really good.
White Sox bats against Gonsolin?
I'm good.
Favorite stacks?
Somebody just said that Muncy's not in, which I hadn't seen their lineup, but Houston, KC, Boston.
There we go. Favorite pitchers?
Scherzer. Oh, their lineup is out, and yeah, no Max Muncy. Hayward is hitting cleanup, so you get a value cleanup bat.
What year is it?
Right. Last I saw, he was actually hitting the ball hard too, which was insane.
I mean, I'm a huge fan. So,
what'd you say?
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah,
so
I figured you were. Scherzer, Lopez, Musgrove.
Well, that'll do it, folks. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. Hit that like button. Thanks to Underdog for being the sponsor. Thanks to Jordan Klein for producing, even though he could not count down from 5 to start this show. Good luck, everybody. Talk to you later.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's that time once again to induct all of you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Do the bragging for you, and of course, give out a whole lot of free Stokastic Plus Platinum subscriptions, a full month, $120 value, and all you got to do to get your name up here to get that free sub is, well, download the Stokastic Avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. Use it wherever it is you play. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and get inducted into the Hall of Fame. As always, Let's dive into this one. First, we start with our boy, Peter Hanley. He's back in the mix. Not 100K, but I will take it. Peter, this guy went on an insane run a little while back, but he's back. First out of 15,000, $20,000 in the Wednesday MLB squeeze. Nice to see you back here, Peter. And how about Albatross? I don't know how to change my avatar, though. That's okay. I like paying for stuff anyway. $130,000. Got to throw him up here, even without the avatar. Shouting out Stokastic Hall of Fame. We'll take that any day of the week. And Schaefer, my first serious attempt using the new Uber Stokastic tool, the MLB Sims tool / DFS God mode last night on both sites. Count me optimistically impressed. Can I have the honorary shout out? That's Stokastic HOA. Yeah, damn right, man. Second, $4,000 for Schaefer. Taking down the batter's eye, $5,000 or second place, and battery, $2,000 there. So a huge night for Schaefer using the new Sims tool, which has only been out for a week now. We're very happy to see the results, of course. I think 209 DFS is as well. Got a couple takedowns thanks to the crew and the new Sims tool coming in clutch. There we go. First and seconds across the board for 209 DFS. Let's see, did the tool do any more damage in its first week? Barry Watts does not qualify, do not care. Just please don't tell anybody about this new Sims tool. 5,000, 2,000, 750, and 150 for Barry. Congrats, dude. Even though it doesn't qualify, you know we're throwing it up here. And Travis Scott, I don't need a free month of Stokastic. I just love hearing my name shouted out when I ship tournaments. Shout out to the Sims tool. Damn, 4 in a row. First place in the chin music for Travis. Coming in hot this week. Mitchell Kipp, Stokastic tools for the win. I love this, man. We've been talking about Sleeper. They got the dynamic payout system, the dynamic pricing, where you can up to 100x on these payouts in these cards. He 51x'd and 14x'd in 2 of them. 10 for 500 and 10 in the 139. Figured we'd throw a little sleeper action up here for Mitchell, taking advantage of that sweet dynamic pricing payouts they have. And JJ, UFC 60K mini max at Stokastic HOF, $2,000 right there for JJ. And Maui, it ain't much, but it's honest work. Thanks. It's pretty nice though, man. 12K beanball. MLB, $500 second place for Maui. And I know it's a lower entry contest, so that's a massive ROI. Ryan Slaughterback, shout out to Greg Ehrenberg and the whole Stokastic crew. Turned 6 in the 4,000. Chopped first, but hopefully still worthy of the Hall of Fame. Ready to rip some more lineups for the U.S. Open this week. LFG, first out of 7, the 800, 4,000 for Ryan. And Millstone just won 150 from a 5-cent game using the Stokastic MLB tools. They paid for themselves already. You love to see it. Username is L Moeller and Millstone79. Congrats, dude. That's awesome. 5 cents in the 150. And the professor, man, a few words at Stokastic HOF. Look at that. First place out of 52,000 in the shot. 100K. It's a chop, right? But still, not bad. Just a big night across the board. $13 into 1,156. Got a few more here. Brody, after a ton of close calls. Here's another one. At least this one is close enough to qualify for the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Thanks to the boys for teaching me the ways. Third place, 750 in the 30K mini max. And our boy Stay Odd, putting a little something neat together here. Branding it, but also has the Stokastic avatar. $870 in the 15K pull-up jumper. And then we finish it out with Mr. Nasty Time Gaming. What does that mean? Got me a little takedown last night. Thanks for the excellent info you guys put out. 1K first place in the MLB 10K single entry chin music. Remember, all you got to do to get involved, download the avatar, stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF and win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. And get inducted into the Hall of Fame right here. Crowning achievement for everybody. Gather the family around and tell them, hey, I'm about to be inducted. It's the best day of my life.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Live Before Lock presented by Underdog Fantasy. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be breaking down this little bit of 14 gamer that we have before us. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. It goes a long way for us on this video, goes a long way for you. That way you'd become apprised whenever we have great content going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Going to be a fun time talking a little bit of Underdog later in the program, but we got a lot of DFS to cover, and I got just the guy to do it. I was alongside him as the analyst yesterday. I get to host this time around, just mixing it up, giving him an opportunity to play, to kick it, to kind of enjoy his experience here too. It's Neil Orfield. Go follow him at PlayerQDFS over on the Twitters. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing well. There's no cushier job than being the analyst on a live before lock show. We don't have to go game by game. We can just shoot the shit, answer questions, and you have to do all the hard, heavy lifting here. You have to see which questions are asked. You have to do all the ad reads and stuff. I just get to sit here and respond to stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Yesterday got absolutely murdered, even though I had no Red Sox. Ended up on Tampa Bay in droves, and well, I had JT Realmuto 48%, and then I decided geniusly right before that slate started, you know what? I'm just going to get to all the Bethancourt, just kind of finish it all out. I ended up playing Trey Turner instead, and you know what? That didn't go very well. Dude goes for bazillion fantasy points, has his best game of the year by far, but today is another day, and that's the thing about MLB at DFS. It's not always about what you do today. It's what you do over a long sample size, and that's what we have to help you, whether it's the MLB lineup generator, which can do it for you instantly, or the MLB Sims tool, which has a lot of intricacies that are just so fun to be toying around with. New product here over at Stokastic, and boy, oh boy, is it a lot of fun. We got my guy Jordan Klein down there. I've been hanging out with him all day long, whether it was talking PGA, now talking a little MLB. He's so excited to see me. Look at him. Look at him.
Yes. Oh, big smile. The biggest smile. You guys would love it if you could see Jordan's big smile.
Just radiates my heart. It gets me ready to go. Start me up. We're ready, baby. All right. We've got MLB Live Before Lock. We get to go pitchers. Then we get to go stacks, talk individual batters, take your questions. A little bit of everything going on over the course of this hour, but we're going to start diving in. Neil, you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock.
All right. It's all on you. I'm going to roll. We've got the top pitchers tool over here at Stokastic, and it is so nice. Really great opportunity to see all the great data we have, whether it's the top stacks tool, the top batters tool, everything that we have here to offer. But I'm playing primarily DraftKings. I do have a couple of FanDuel lineups, so I'll make sure that they get love. Too. No discrimination here, Squirrel. But we start with the most positive. Well, not even most positive leverage, the most popular pitchers that have negative leverage. We've got Scherzer, we've got Pablo Lopez, Joe Musgrove, Corbin Burns, all these guys pulling 19% or greater ownership. How are you feeling about the top end of the ownership spectrum with pitching today?
Yeah, I mean, I want to avoid like the top end largely. I'd like to be underweight to the field on the likes of Max Scherzer when we've got Max Scherzer with a 16.3% chance of being the top two pitcher. Corbin Burns at 14.4. So just behind him, and Corbin Burns only $100 more expensive. Yet we have Scherzer at 35% projected ownership, Corbin Burns at 19. Like we just have so much negative leverage on Scherzer and he's playing the Yankees. Like it's not an easy spot for Scherzer. I'd rather just go to some of these other pitchers that are pretty similar in terms of top two pitcher odds and are getting significantly less ownership. So yeah, it's a fade for me on Scherzer. If I'm doing my classic build, I'd be underweight to the field there. Probably the same thing. I hate to say it, but probably the same thing for Pablo Lopez. The exact same analysis applies. He's just getting similar top two pitcher odds as a lot of other pitchers who are going a lot lower owned. And I'd rather just go to the lower owned pitchers here because it's pretty flat up at the top in terms of top two pitcher odds.
I have by far the most Pablo Lopez out of anybody here going up against the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't really find this lineup to be all that intimidating. And I really like what we saw last start where the velocity was there, 7 innings, 6 Ks, 10 ground balls. He's now at 10 ground balls back-to-back games against Cleveland. Again, going into Tampa Bay, historically, that's been a decent pitcher's park, but that's been the best offense in baseball thus far this season. Tampa Bay has really nice results there. A much cushier little matchup here going up against Milwaukee. I think he makes sense for me currently at their ownerships. I'm going to be getting to a little bit more of him. The top 2 percentage is a little bit higher on Max Scherzer, but I'm saving $1,000. Looking at some of the stacks that I'm getting to today, there aren't, you're paying up for bats is what you're getting at, or what I'm doing at least here today. But in that tier, we do have Corbin Burns in that same game, Joe Musgrove, Hunter Brown. No other pitcher gaining more than 20% on this slate currently, which is pretty wild, all things considered. Do you have a next in line type pitcher? Who is the pitcher you're getting to the most on this slate then today?
So I'm going to be using the lineup generator, and I have not run my lineups yet. So it's harder for me now that I'm using the lineup generator to say what I will do, because it's easier for me to just use my regular process and I'll know exactly how much I'm going to get. It's a little bit tougher to anticipate what I'm going to do. But what I would like to do is be above weight to the field on Hunter Brown. He is our top pitcher in terms of top 2 pitcher odds. He's more expensive than Max Scherzer, so it makes sense that he's getting a little bit less ownership, but he's only getting 16.6% ownership. Looks like fairly neutral ownership. I don't know, we're talking about leverage a lot, and we've talked about it in the past that, like, with pitchers, you are more willing to eat the chalk, right? Like, even if Max Scherzer has 35% chance of being a 35% projected ownership, 16% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, often I'm still willing to say, I don't really care that much. I'm going to go overweight to the field anyway. But since we have such flat top 2 pitcher odds across the board today, I do think I care a little bit more about it, just because we can get pitchers with very similar top 2 pitcher odds that are 18% ownership for George Kirby versus 35% ownership for Max Scherzer. So just looking at the pitchers that have high top 2 pitcher odds and are not getting a ton of ownership, that's going to be Hunter Brown for me. That's going to be Corbin Burns. I don't want to play Corbin Burns against. I said I wasn't going to say one good word about Corbin Burns because he's playing against the Twins, but he does look good in terms of not getting a ton of ownership. George Kirby looks good as well. Edward Cabrera. So we have some options that are just not getting nearly as much ownership. Zach Wheeler you can throw in there as well, to an extent. Joe Musgrove, if you really want to save some salary at 7,800 in San Diego facing Cleveland, looks pretty good. We've got a lot of options that are getting 20% or lower ownership that still have close to the top of the board in terms of top 2 pitcher odds.
So we got a question in the premium Discord. Again, one of the nice things that you guys get here over at Stokastic when you sign up for the Platinum package, everything else, is you get access to Discord. You can talk in the premium baseball channel and the premium basketball channel. Yeah, it's rip for that. Maybe some NBA draft specials that you can talk through for that. But the premium baseball channel, we have a question from Fidencio. He's saying Lopez or Kirby for today. And I think that that's going to be what a lot of people are looking at. 2 pitchers pretty close to each other, within $500 of one another. I know you haven't built out your lineups yet, but on the surface, do you have a preference between the two based on their ownership?
Yeah, on the surface, if I were hand building and starting with pitcher, I'd rather go to Kirby than Lopez. Hate to say it. Lopez, love him on the Twins. But Kirby getting 15% lower ownership than Pablo Lopez. He's 500 more expensive, and he's just behind him in terms of top 2 pitcher odds, 0.7% lower odds of being a top 2 pitcher. So given the numbers in the top pitchers tool, if I were hand building, I'd go to Kirby before Lopez. How about you?
Yeah, I'm still going to go to Pablo Lopez. I think based on projection that we have going here, as well as the ownership, I get the ownership is more drastic and he's a lot more popular. He's also $500 cheaper, and yep. I project him for 4 more raw fantasy points than I do George Kirby. George Kirby is just not really a strikeout guy, and I don't think that can really be emphasized enough. Based on the data, Miami doesn't strike out against right-handed pitching, really. They've been pretty great on the season. Part of that is Luis Arraez, of course, but 22.5% K rate that you're looking at on the aggregate for them. And then George Kirby, 20.3% K rate. There's not a ton of massive upside there. Maybe FanDuel, we could have a different discussion between the two, because as I head over there, it's all Max Scherzer. Pablo Lopez is sitting at 12.7%, but then you have George Kirby a distant ways, 2.3% ownership there. I'd maybe look at him to be somebody who can go 6, get you the quality start in the win, and potentially being a leverage piece over there, rather than trying to force him on DK just for leverage sake. I'm still going to get to some, but not nearly at the field right now.
You have Pablo Lopez projected for 4 more fantasy points than George Kirby. I do. That would change the equation for me. I'm using our projections. We've got them pretty close. We've got Lopez at 17.3, Kirby at 17.05. So like they're right by each other in terms of projection in the Stokastic projection. So it would definitely change the equation for me if I had Pablo Lopez projected 4 fantasy points higher. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit different.
Personally, I just kind of run my stuff every single day. I'm looking at Milwaukee, 24.2% K rate going up against right-handed pitching on the season. That's 7th highest in baseball. And then you cross-reference that with the fact that, well, Milwaukee, they tend to strike out. And then Lopez is the exponentially better strikeout artist between the two, 28.6% on the season. So we're talking about an 8% difference in K percentage. We're talking about the much better matchup. I don't really know what I'm missing there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Kirby did have like its what is the sample size? I mean, it was his K rate was 24% last year. I don't know if like that's the rolling average is factored in there. But yeah, it was 2 years ago. It was down at 15%. I'm trying to see. Oh, that was sorry.
Yeah,
I
mean,
AAA,
Lopez is up
AAA
from 23.6% last season, but he had 27.5% the year before. If I go to a baseline of 26% for him and 23% for George Kirby, where I take a little off of Pablo and I take a little bit more and add it to Kirby, that'd be one thing. But then the matchups are just drastically different in terms of projecting out strikeouts, nearly a 5% difference against their respective handednesses for the season. Yeah, I'm still going to be pretty heavily on Pablo Lopez.
Sure. Okay.
Yep. And he's going to be more popular. So again, that's part of it, but it's a pretty drastic difference in projections. So I get it because, well, Seattle is a fantastic pitcher's park as well. You're going to Target Field and that can generally play pretty neutral, but it's still going to be a spot where I think just from a strikeout perspective, I prefer Lopez by a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, if you have him projected 4 points higher, I'm just using our projections. So yeah, that's it'd be a different analysis. Brian D asking, anyone know a Sims promo code? I bet Jordan Klein does.
I bet Jordan Klein. He is divine.
He has a link.
He's awfully fine. He can throw in a link. He's got time. It's good.
He's got
it covered for you. Cool. Let's go to other pitchers on the board here, my friend. And it is interesting to say the least if you're looking for some positive leverage because Tanner Bebe, what happened to the Bebe? That's what I kept hearing whenever Josh Engleman said his name when I caught the last 20 minutes of that show. You got Lance Lynn in a very difficult spot. He's had the strikeout rate, but I'm not going to blindly follow that one into the abyss, considering the Dodgers convert pretty good against right-handed pitching with their 113 WRC plus and a lot of lefties between Freeman and Muncy and all these other cats that can do some damage. But I mean, there's got to be a couple of these guys that we can sprinkle into lineups. Any of these positively leveraged pitchers in the top pitchers tool that you find yourself interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to decide if I actually want any Tanner. I call him Bibby. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. He does have some nice leverage there. He's pitching in San Diego, so nice park to pitch in, but facing that San Diego lineup does scare me a little bit.
Oh, Muncy's out of the lineup. Somebody just said, all right, well, there you go.
No Muncy.
Cool.
So that's a little help for Lance Lynn there.
I didn't see the Dodgers lineup. Let me update that. Jason Hayward batting cleanup. Cool.
Ooh.
What? All right. Betts, Freeman, Smith, Hayward, Martinez, Peralta, Vargas, Outman, and Taylor. All right. Well, that's interesting. I guess that takes some strikeout luster off of Lance Lynn, I suppose. Definitely. Max Muncy, as good as he is, he certainly strikes out. So I'm going to rerun some stuff in that department.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to rerun some stuff. I'm trying to see who also has like positive leverage among these guys. I mean, I could play Alex Cobb, 2% projected ownership, 7% chance of being a top pitcher. Looks okay here. Don't really want to be playing Chris Bassett against Baltimore, I don't think. Don't really love the idea of playing Severino against the Mets. I mean, Cutter Crawford looks okay from a like top value pitcher. So like if you need to save some money, Cutter Crawford at 5,900 has 17% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher at 6% ownership. Looks pretty good there. Yeah, not a lot of like mid-range options that I really love here. Is there anybody that's standing out to you that you really want to play? I guess I'll throw Tony Gonsolin out there also. 6% projected ownership, 8.2% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. Nobody that's like jumping off the page at me as a must play. My favorite mid-range option is probably Joe Musgrove, who's negative leverage. Who do you like there?
There's some interesting pieces, and this is, I mean, I'm on Tanner Bebe in terms of it's not a K ladder. It's 2 individual plays. I'm doing over 4.5 strikeouts and then 6, just getting to 6 strikeouts as well, going up against San Diego. I overall like the stuff from the righty. He seems as though he's just kind of figuring it out at the big league level. Teams aren't really figuring him out the way that I thought they might. He's just an appealing low-owned option. You can throw a lot of these guys into that bucket where you can have some interest at really, really low ownership with some chalkier stacks. And, whether that ends up being, the Boston Red Sox, Tampa Bay is not really popular today, although they're showing up for me quite a bit. Houston being your most popular, going up against Corbin, against Brandon Williams, KC, you've got Kansas City. You could probably mix some of these guys in or one into a couple of lineups and just have a much better chance at differentiation. But I'm not going nuts with anybody in this range. Again, Pablo Lopez is pretty clearly the guy that I'm most overweight to in the pitching department. I'm kind of scattering across the board. The one pitcher that I don't know what to make of what we have going right now, he's got 16.8% top two value percentage. He's not exactly free to, and I just don't think the pitch count's going to be there in a way that we can get to, but maybe I'm wrong about it. Cutter Crawford, he's pulling 5.3% ownership. I currently have 0, but he's 5,900. Is that somebody that you have any kind of a pitch count idea of what we're getting at, considering he was up to 58 last game? If I got to 75 pitches at 5,900, he's actually good.
Yeah, honestly, it's not something that I have factored in the pitch count at all. I mean, we've got him projected fairly well. We've got him projected for nearly 13 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a huge concern. I think that if it were a bigger concern, we probably would have projected him a little bit worse. So yeah, at 5,900 against this Rockies team outside of Coors Field, I think that he's one of the like lower end pitchers that I do have interest in. Lower end in terms of salary. I think that he is one of the better plays lower in the salary. Actually, maybe my favorite. I don't see anybody else that I like better than Cutter Crawford, who is cheaper than him. So yeah, I like Cutter Crawford. I mean, I can't say that I like love him. Like, he's not like a phenomenal pitcher, but he's, got that Red Sox offense behind him. He is facing the Rockies outside of Coors. A lot going for him, and he's 5,900. So yeah, sign me up for some Cutter Crawford.
Yeah, I think it's just somebody that I'm second guessing myself a little bit. I have major pitch count concerns, but eventually what happens is the light switch goes there. And I was looking at Twitter. I don't know. Why would we possibly want to know that from a sports betting perspective? God forbid we have beat writers that could possibly cover a baseball team and give us that information. I've been looking for it. I don't see it. If anybody does see it, sees that there's a pitch count specifically there, but they have said, the Red Sox have explicitly stated that he's going to stay in the rotation here. He pitched 93 pitches his first start of the season, but it hasn't been remotely close to that. They've now started to ramp him back up. I don't know what to make of the pitch count, but I think he's good. And Colorado, not a whole lot of better matchups than getting Colorado outside of Coors Field without their two best hitters in Bryant and Crone. And yeah, just seems like a spot that I think I'd want to be invested. That's for sure. If I knew he was getting to 75, 80 pitches.
I'm also not seeing anything about a strict pitch count here. So I think that's certainly within the realm of possibilities to get back up there.
Yeah, significantly better fly ball pitcher. Yeah, I mean, there's that, but I mean, he's just good. We're looking for strikeouts. We're looking for upside, and it's hard to get away from that. 16.3 degree average launch angle on the season, 31.4% hard hit percentage, at least a soft contact coming off the bat. 268 xwOBA. I like the stuff overall, so it would be fun. Plus, we do have to expect that there's going to be some kind of negative regression going from mostly a bullpen role this season to getting back into being in the starting rotation, where a lot of those numbers will dip off a little bit. But sure, for the most part, it's just somebody that I've had a tough time knowing what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get your opinion. Don't mind the Gonsolin shout out going up against the White Sox, although the K is never there for Tony Gonsolin, and the pitch count over the course of the years, it started to get ramped up, but there's a quick hook trigger there that Mr. Dave Roberts has from time to time. So at least buyer beware, if anything there. I have one pitcher that I'm getting to way over the field that's a little bit terrifying to me, and it's Zach Wheeler, considering he is facing Arizona. Arizona's been the best team in baseball at avoiding strikeouts against right-handed pitching at just 19.1%. But if I'm going to get a low-owned Zach Wheeler in pretty much any spot, the roof is closed at Chase Field today, whereas it was open yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one too, but that's what it said on the Chase Field. There's a Twitter account for it. Seems trustworthy. Zach Davies on the other side, it's not exactly a spot where I want to be getting to the pitcher on the other side, but do you have any Zach Wheeler, any expensive pitchers like him that you might be scattering into lineups? You said Hunter Brown before, correct?
I did say Hunter Brown before. Yeah, Zach Wheeler, absolutely. I like that shout out. Getting 10% ownership, 12% chance of being a top two pitcher. And like, if Zach Wheeler is on, even a team like Arizona is not going to be able to hit his stuff. So like, he's a good enough pitcher that, yeah, it's a tough matchup. I get that. But I mean, we were talking about that this game went off yesterday with the roof open. Helps a lot, right? That the roof is closed here in Arizona makes it a little bit less of a great hitting environment. So yeah, Zach Wheeler, even against this Arizona team. I mean, I don't like, it's not the best lineup out there. They just don't strike out a ton, but if he's throwing his best stuff, I think he's going to get some strikeouts anyway. So yeah, low owned Zach Wheeler. I'm definitely up for that.
Okay, because that's the guy that I have about, excuse me, I don't know, I just died there. I have 35% of him currently in my last run. I'm not playing nearly as many lineups as yesterday. Again, wanted to focus on the people, give you the information, therefore we can win some money together. That would be great stuff. But anything else you want to discuss from a pitching perspective before we move on?
I think that we've covered all of the most interesting pitching spots on this slate. Yeah, I don't see anybody else that I really need to talk about here.
Who is the moderator here? I want to know about MLB Sims. Well, we can definitely help you out with that. You just simply go to the contest Sims page over on Stokastic. So that's good stuff, my friends. But of course, in the interim between pitchers and between stacks, we got to talk about our lovely sponsor. That is, my friends, Underdog Fantasy. And, well, you know them from the best ball streets. I am pretty positive. But have you checked out their Pick'em product? Because it's been fantastic. They've been doing some free squares from time to time. Obviously, in the NBA streets, they've had promotions on Twitter to help you guys build up your bankroll. Maybe get a free $1,000 here or there based on NBA stuff. But from an MLB perspective, I love their Pick'em. I think it's going to be a great addition to you people who are not in legal states to be able to get some exposure to a great site with a ton of options for the MLB streets. And, you know, as I go through everything that they have on their site, it's clean, concise, easy, also available to you on mobile. Check out everything that they have to offer right now, and you can double your first match deposit bonus when you sign up. There's a link below there. I'm sure Jordan Klein can throw into the chat for us as well. But as you're taking a look at everything there, double your first deposit up to $100 right now just by following that link and signing up. Again, promo code Stokastic in order to take advantage of that. But I have a couple of plays on the board that I'm very, very interested in today. We also have a quick and easy to use MLB betting tool for you guys. That is with the Pick'em Pro. Yes, the Pick'em Pro, as you're looking at everything up there, there's the sports betting side of things, but then there's the Pick'em side of things. Very, very different here, but getting an opportunity to look at the MLB like whether it's, you know, other sites like that or over to Underdog here, there are a ton of expected win percentages that are above 55%, which is kind of the threshold I'm looking at. I would never want to really be going on something below that number, but between Jaime Barria, over 3.5, 57% expected win percentage over there. Fernando Tatis, under 1.5 total bases. That's a terrifying one, but I'm on BB, so why not a little bit of an under on Fernando Tatis? Is there any play that you're looking at there in the projections that jumps out to you that people could utilize on an Underdog card tonight?
That is a very good question, and I'm sure that there is. Give me 1 second to pull up Pick'em Pro. I was too busy talking to noticing EMAC in chat.
What's up, my guy?
Yeah, always good to see you out there.
Always.
Man, it always... I struggle so much with the unders on the total base, but they're at least at 1.5 here. It's not a 0.5. I hate the 0.5, and those are often some of the best here. I'm always willing to go to, you mentioned the Jaime Barria. Anytime a strikeout prop is near the top because they're so projectable, I just like to throw those ones in there. Yeah, I'll take that Hunter Brown over 5.5 strikeouts. I'm not sure if you called that one out, but nice spot for Hunter Brown. Great strikeout pitcher. We've got him projected at 6.3 strikeouts. So I'll go with that one. The Hunter Brown over 5.5 strikeouts has good enough odds that I'm willing to play that one.
Yeah, last one to throw in there for you, Jared Kelenic. Because of the ballpark, it's really hard to always look at Seattle and be like, I want to actively stack them. That's for sure. But Jared Kelenic on the season hitting 265, much better, of course, in the platoon, going up against righties here. And Edward Cabrera, it's a really weird spot with Edward Cabrera. We didn't talk about him from a DFS angle. He's 9,600 on the DraftKings slate, that's for sure. But he left his last start with a blister. Apparently, he's just fine. The blister's on his pitching hand, of course, because that's the only way it would matter. Got his last start abbreviated. And do we run into a similar issue here? Is he just fine all of a sudden? I don't know what to make of it. All I know is Jared Kelenic, yeah, he's batting fifth today. It's not as appealing, but over 0.5 hits. The guy has just been a really revamped hitter this season. We started to see it at the tail end of last year and seeing it project out with a 55% expected win percentage right on that threshold. I like getting to that one as well. So take a look at that. It's really good stuff over with our friends at Underdog. And of course, they have the massive best ball mania going on this season. 3 million. Is that right, Neil? 3 million to first?
3 million to first, 15 million total in the contest prizes.
WTF.
Yeah, it's great. Great contest.
Just insane stuff from Underdog Fantasy. So check out the pick'em. Check out the daily fantasy contest that they have going to. We're talking MLB large field GPPs with daily drafts going constantly for you. They have playoff drafts, so when that comes around for MLB, that'll be great. NHL is still going here. Believe there's a chance to close it out pretty much every spot going forward here, but I think you've got an opportunity to play a lot of different game types and make a ton of money, up to $3 million at first for that Best Ball Mania. Jump in there, use promo code Stokastic, follow that link below, and double your first deposit up to $100. Thank you to Underdog for their sponsorship here of our lovely little program. To the top stacks we go. The people want to know the bats, Neil, and the bats they shall get. Looking at the top stacks tool, who are your favorite teams that you anticipate showing up when you click on the lineup generator today?
I mean, Tampa really stands out in the top stack. So let me refresh and make sure that's right. That looks like absurdly low ownership and high top stack odds on Tampa. 3.1% projected ownership, 9.6% chance to be in the top stack. I don't know if I've ever seen anything with that big of a discrepancy before. They're in Oakland, so that's a little bit tough. But yeah, if I were going to go to one stack here, Tampa is certainly one that stands out to me in the top stacks tool. I know all day Kansas City has looked good going up against Brandon Williamson. Great matchup there. They've looked really good in the lineup generator. I've been getting a lot of Kansas City in my lineups. 8.6% projected ownership, 9.4% chance to be in the top value stack. They allow you to play basically whatever else you want in your lineup. And nice matchup with Brandon Williamson. So Kansas City kind of stands out as a pretty nice stack to go to. Yeah, I mean, you can go back to Boston. People were asking about that earlier. Are we going back to Boston here? Certainly can go back to Boston against Chase
I didn't
Anderson.
even play Boston yesterday, and I still found a way to lose all my money. So that was fun.
Yeah, I chose the more the usual route to lose all my money, which was playing Boston yesterday. But I'll be playing Boston once again. I mean, I'm playing the lineup generator, so we'll see what I end up getting to. But they look good once again in Boston, in Fenway. Obviously, prefer it in Coors, but we'll take a game in Fenway any day as well. We'll take the matchup with Chase Anderson, getting 9% ownership, 8% chance to be in the top stack. A little bit of negative leverage there, but still second on the board in terms of top stack odds. They look good as well. Who do you like here?
Well, you're talking about it, so we might as well just pull it up, shall we? I think we might as well bring up the lineup generator for everybody so they know what you're talking about here.
Yep.
If you go to Stokastic, and again, the MLB Sims is a lot of fun. The pre-contest simulator, post-contest simulator to see what your expected ROI were. How good were the lineups that you built once the cards were flipped? I think that's a really fun feature as well. You definitely want to be checking that out. We have now a weekly package that you can get in for that. Too, for the MLB Sims, I believe it's $60 a week at that number. Cheaper for you to take a shot with the monthly and to see how that goes over a longer sample size. A little bit of bang for your buck, considering it would be 3 weeks that would equal out for that month at the 180 price point. But $60 to jump in for a weekly now. Great change that we've added so that more people can try it out. More people can have an opportunity to see what we're raving about. But there are also times, like with what Neil has, where you don't have all the time to put in the research. You don't necessarily have the opportunity to fire everything up the way that we do, where, I'm 6 hours, 8 hours sitting on my computer a day, have an opportunity to plug everything in. And that's where the MLB lineup generator, especially as you're starting to get your feet wet over an MLB DFS, comes in big time handy. You click on DraftKings main. There's a 5-3 and a 5X stack type. No currently available 5-2-1 stack type, but I really like the 5-3. I really like 5 and letting it roll in that regard too. I kind of throw an assortment of both in on the days where, I got things to do. I got to put some lineups together quickly, and it takes away all of the riffraff for you. You can save up to 20 of them. You can then CSV upload it. Check that out in the video description box below as well. Really great price point to be jumping in there too. Very a lot cheaper than the MLB Sims at the moment for you. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely be checking out the MLB lineup generator, because once again, that's what Neil's up to today. It works out no matter which way you slice it. You're going to have better lineups than you had before using either the pre-contest sim or by trusting the data over here with the lineup generator. So great stuff by our team, by our dev team there. But let's go to other stacks that you have there, because, well, the Red Sox definitely make some sense, and I'm getting to a little bit of them on today's slate. It's a much larger slate than we had yesterday, where I didn't feel like getting to them on a consolidated slate. They didn't end up crazy popular, but had 0. They failed. And now, well, maybe people fall a little bit by the wayside there. Tampa Bay, interesting spot there now with an opener leading into Hogan. And I mean, he's not a good opener by any means. That entire bullpen is pretty trash. But are there any positively leveraged stacks that we haven't talked about yet here that you really want to be prioritizing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've named like the ones that are my favorites already, but I'll take a look at whether there's any others that really stand out as positive.
I mean, Houston is like they're the fade du jour if you're going purely off of ownership, which I'm not going to be completely fading them by any means. I think there's ways to mix it up. Getting to Kyle Tucker up there in the 4-hole, batting clean up there for them today. You get Yanner Diaz, who does have the dual position eligibility. I think he might end up a little bit more popular as a result. I never play Dupuan, and he just continues to be decent at hitting. That's a little bit frustrating. But Chas McCormick Myers, I'm playing that lineup all the way to the back.
Hello? Yeah, no, I think that you can certainly play some Houston. Just so you know, my entire screen just went. Oh, I'm back. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Eric?
Yeah, and now you're fast forward. 1.5x podcast read.
I had the same experience, but it happened on my end first. So my whole screen went black, and then you were talking really fast, and then apparently you couldn't hear me. Yeah, I think you can certainly go to Houston against Patrick Corbin. Jordan's like, nothing happened on Jordan's, and he doesn't know what we're talking about. But I am back. I'm back, and yes, I agree with you. There are ways to play Houston. It's a great spot against Patrick Corbin. Makes sense that they're going to get some ownership. Absolutely, that is a stack you can go to. What do you think about the Dodgers? I mean, I know no Max Muncy, so not the strongest Dodgers lineup, but getting 3.5% ownership, 5.3% chance to be in the top stack. Steve said this after one of his, 1,200K wins last month. He said you should always play at least one Dodgers lineup. I think there's some merit to that. Like, it's just like, even in a tough matchup, the Dodgers always have a shot at putting up big runs. And Lance Lynn, he's fine, but he's not like the toughest matchup in the world. So do you think you have any interest in the Dodgers here?
Definitely. Always. Yeah, you should always have a Dodger stack. I believe that was the exact quote from our good friend Steve Buzzard DeColts, who just destroys the industry from time to time. He just is like, oh, I'll let you win for a couple weeks, yada yada yada. And then he goes on these tears where he does skin the sheep. He doesn't shear it. He just goes full bore for it. So great stuff by Steve Buzzard. And obviously now with this pre-contest simulator available to everybody, great to be able to see that process in action. I know he's got a video available to do that as well. The Dodgers, I'm definitely going to be getting to some of them. You lose Max Muncy, that kind of sucks, but then you also add in some type of value there. You have Hayward moving up in that lineup to clean up some positives whenever you miss these big bats in a lineup. Same thing with the Angels with Mike Trout today, where, it sucks not to have him there, but Mickey Moniak, it's left on left, but been decent across the board still, and facing this Bradford character, not exactly shying away from the extra addition of a value bat. So I'm gonna be kind of playing it both ways there. I think you definitely want to be getting to the Dodgers here on today's slate as well. In terms of ownership, Houston, again, they're kind of the big fade. I'm still getting to some of them, specifically those under-owned hitters. Boston, again, they've got some negative leverage, but that's fine. What do you think about Baltimore? Because nobody is clicking on Baltimore today, and Chris Bassett has generally been much improved. He did talk about how he doesn't believe in advanced analytics. That makes him a dum-dum, that's for sure. But he hasn't exactly been... He's been fine. He's gone, 7 2/3, 8 his last 2. So obviously he's been fantastic, those 2. But on the sample size for the season, I still think this Baltimore lineup is one of those lineups that falls in the category of not necessarily the Dodgers or of that level, but a lineup that can just go out and win you a tournament at extremely low ownership any given day. There are so many of those that show up on these 14, 15 game slates that I just find myself a little bit overweight to all of them. Baltimore fits in that category. We've got some positive leverage going towards St. Louis had positive leverage a second ago. They're basically flat here now. And then our Minnesota Twins, Joey Gallo. Come on now. It's time, baby. He's back.
He's back. All right.
Yeah, batting 8th, and that sucks, but still.
At least he's back. That's all we can really ask for. So starting with Baltimore, we got a little bit of negative leverage, but certainly Adam would put him in the same category as the Dodgers. He has put him in the same category as the Dodgers of you should always play at least one Baltimore stack. Like, it doesn't matter who they're facing. They are a dangerous lineup. Even with the little bit of negative leverage here against Chris Bassett, but that they're capable of putting up 12 runs and just breaking the slate. So don't hate that call out one bit. Yeah, Twins, I mean, 6% chance to be in the top value stack at 1.8% ownership. So from that perspective, we do have a little bit of positive leverage on the Twins as well. Not a bad call out there. I want to answer or ask you, do you have a thought on Ryan Remo's super chat playing only one lineup?
Yep, I was going to answer it. I've got it. I've got it all figured here. He's playing one lineup, 15 minutes, playing one lineup in DK, GPP, top stack, SP1 and SP2. I'm going to throw Pablo Lopez in. You can't veto it.
All right, you're throwing Pablo Lopez in a GPP. So if you're playing Pablo Lopez, who else do we want in there with Pablo Lopez?
I'll let you go for the low owned dart. And then we'll talk about my highest owned stack, which is terrifying.
I don't hate the idea of going to Hunter Brown along with Pablo Lopez against Washington. Like we're paying up there if we're playing both of them, but Pablo Lopez 8,800, not that much, not that expensive.
Okay, well, then we got to talk the stack, because I think that's going to be where we're sitting there, where you have one lineup. Last year, I think when you and I did shows, one of the easiest things that I could do was simply predict the future. And that was Neil Orfield going to the most positively leveraged stack that exists on the board. That would be Tampa Bay on DraftKings as it stands right now. Would that logic hold true with you this year, Neil?
So I want to amend. So it's not the most positively leveraged. It was the stack that has positive leverage with the highest top stack odds. So it was, I think, the pattern that you found in my choices last year. But often the same thing.
Go Tampa Bay.
Certainly Tampa's a team that you could go to there. I don't hate that. I'm also trying to think of what I want to do with this Cubs game, because both the Cubs and the Pirates are looking pretty good in terms of leverage in the top stacks tool. It's very scary though with the weather. Like, you think you're going to be playing any Cubs or Pirates today? Are you risking it?
Yeah, probably.
I think I am too.
I'm looking at it. Let me double check. Taking a look. It's in our book. That was reading Rainbow joke, by the way. It wasn't even a joke. I just said words and it's stupid. Yeah, I'm going to play it still.
All right. I think I am too. It's scary though. There's definitely some risk involved in that game. But yeah, I think you called it. Tampa is probably the first stack I would go to looking at the top stack tool. Did you have one that you like better?
Not one that I like better per se. It's just the one that I'm getting to the most because, well, Tampa Bay is starting to vault up the board. Similar to other teams, you saw a lot of pinch hits yesterday. You saw a lot of pinch hits from the Tampa Bay side of things. They're going to do that from time to time. I think this lineup iteration looks like it should be okay. I do get nervous that it runs into a pseudo bullpen type situation. I think Harris should still be able to, he's gone 5 most of the time. I think even in relief going in the second inning or potentially third inning, he'll still get a lot of the leash there. But Oakland bullpen isn't something to be feared. So Tampa Bay getting there, you just simply fear them playing the platoon game. And Tampa Bay does that nonstop in a San Francisco-esque type way. So that gets a little bit freaky. And that's where, my friends, it's always time to target Jordan Lyles, right? And I know there's negative leverage coming in on Cincinnati, but then you look at some of the individual hitters in the lineup, and it's so skewed towards individual bats. And then you also get Elly De La Cruz, who has the multi-positional eligibility. And there's just things that you need to factor in. But there's so many ways to build out this Cincinnati lineup. And Jordan Lyles, he's been unlucky in terms of he's been, not as bad as what his ERA would indicate, but he has still been horrendous with a 5.05 expected slugging, just a 17.4% K rate and a 5.12 expected ERA, putting that up next to his 6.84 ERA. I really like getting to Cincinnati here, mainly because I'm looking across the industry, bouncing around some places, taking a look. Doesn't seem like everybody's just jamming Cincinnati in this spot. And you're getting a lot of opportunities on these massive slates to kind of really pick your spots. And I'm picking my spot here. Matt McClain, give me that. Getting to a little bit of Newman, Steer with the multi-positional eligibility. Jonathan India has been awesome this entire season. Even Benson and Fairchild, 7-9 hole, getting to pieces of them. And Tyler Stevenson, pretty much every time, going to be one of the better catcher options that you could get to, even if he is, 3,800, not exactly a cheapie. So I like Cincinnati a lot today. They seem to be showing up a lot in the Sims for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think I got to a little bit of Cincinnati as well. And yeah, Mark Smith asking, Eric and Neil, are you building lineups in Lineup Generator when all lineups aren't in? Yeah, it's kind of the nature of the game. If you don't get lineups before lock, like I don't want to just not play any teams at lock. So I am going to use lineup generator, hope for the best. And then of course, if lineups come out different than expected, then we can adjust at that point. But yeah, I think that's my approach. I've got my lineups in already. And I'll just have two.
Oh, I don't. God forbid. You suck. I do not have my lineups in. Sometimes
you're using the Sims tool, which takes a little bit longer than the lineup generator. So
I mean, other than Friedel and De La Cruz, the entire Cincinnati lineup is like unowned. There's nobody else that's over 7.2% owned on DraftKings today.
Get it in.
And Nelly De La Cruz is showing up in the lineup generator. I just ran some lineups over there because we were talking through it, and I just kind of wanted to compare them. Ellie De La Cruz does have a lot of utility, and also I bet him to hit a home run today. So I don't completely hate the idea of getting to the number one prospect in baseball, who's now at the show and goes he goes both ways. You know, he's a switch hitter. He's good stuff.
One of those switch hitters.
Yeah, beautiful stuff.
I also Beezy asked, can we ignore Altuve's splits against Corbin? Yeah, we can. So I
100%.
If those were positive or negative splits. So I looked it up. He's like 1 for 12. That's just such a small sample size. Not even something that I'm factoring in, even in the slightest. He's actually my highest owned player right now, which is pretty rare. And that's using lineup generator. So that's not like anything I'm doing and not something I was trying to do, but I got to a lot. He just, he projects really well in this matchup with Patrick Corbin. You would expect Altuve to do well, right? It's a righty on lefty matchup for Altuve, one of the best hitters in the game against a pit. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but like a very, very good pitcher, hitter at the very least against a pitcher who is clearly past his prime. I don't care about the splits here.
I am never, ever, ever, ever thinking about BVP. Like I'm just literally never, ever thinking about it. There's once in a while, it's just a fun thing to bring up in conversation, but it doesn't get factored into anything I'm doing with projections, with simulating out the contests now in the MLB Sims tool. There's no part of that where it has my process. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your... No, I'm just kidding. You're fine. It was a good question.
It's a fair question.
It's a very fair question. I'm just simply... It is what it is. All right, my friends. MLB lineup generator, we covered that. We talked about the Sims tool as well. Showed you where you can sign up for that. Talked about Underdog Fantasy, which means it's open to questions for you. We had a couple in the premium Discord earlier. If you guys want to fire a couple there into the chat as well, as we're finishing out our lineups, more than happy to help you if you've got any 1v1s, 2v2 type situations, anything you might have questions on, period, end of story. But as we do that, I guess, did you end up running your lineups? Do you know which stacks you're getting to the most now?
I do. Let me see.
I would love to hear them.
Wait, so I did 2 different sets of lineup generator because I'm playing more than 20 lineups. So okay. I did 23 total lineups. So I have to actually look at my my exposures here. Where can I see so I'm looking within DraftKings now, and I'm still getting used to this, being able to see my exposure levels on DraftKings. I think I'm getting to the most Red Sox. I have 26% Yoshida, 22% Devers. So my guess is the Red Sox are my highest owned stack here, but I'm looking. Actually, as I said, I have 48% Jose Altuve in my lineups, which I don't usually try to have near 50% of any bat, but whatever. I'm accepting it on my small, not a ton of lineups here. I do have a good amount of Arroyo, who which team is Arroyo? I want to say Boston. The Reds, but I'm thinking of Boston. I was thinking of Brunson Arroyo, the old pitcher. I'm like, wait, no, I just see the name Arroyo and associate it with the Reds. Okay, another Boston bat. Getting to a good amount of Boston, a good amount of the Astros here. Actually a good amount of Pittsburgh as well, which scares me a little bit because I think there is some concern about the weather there, but 22% Brian Reynolds currently.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's scary.
That's a lot.
Yep, I might just lose those lineups, but we'll see.
I'm finishing everything out here on my end as well. Again, really happy with the decision that I made to play fewer lineups today, because this would have been a stone cold disaster for everybody involved. Who are the pitchers that you ended up getting to the most today, Neil?
Yeah, so I have 39% George Kirby, it looks like, 26% Pablo Lopez, 26% Edward Cabrera. I thought I had somebody higher up here. Oh, 43% Hunter Brown. So I'm getting to a good amount of Hunter Brown here. Only 4% Zach Wheeler, which I don't love. I would like to be overweight to the field on Zach Wheeler, but I'm not going to redo all of my lineups just for that. 22% Max Scherzer. So I did end up underweight to the field on Scherzer. 13% Corbin Burns against our beloved Twins. I'd like to get rid of that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it how it is. Going to accept all my exposures here for now, at least.
Somebody was asking, how much do you factor into your bets? Like, what sample size is something where you would care about BVP? They could face each other 500 times and I wouldn't care about BVP.
I mean, I might at 500 times, but we just don't see that.
I mean, that's like legitimately not possible. That
right? Yeah,
but
it's an exaggeration.
You know what I mean?
There might be a point where I would, but I don't think it's. I'm actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm curious. Like, what is the most a batter has ever faced a pitcher in a career? Like, what is the highest sample size we have? It's probably not enough to really care.
Probably not. I don't know. That's a good question. I have absolutely no idea. Pablo Lopez, the pitcher I'm getting to the most, 55% of him, getting to a lot of Zach Wheeler as well. It's going to get naughty here. It's going to get freaking naughty. It's going to be fun.
Not Cornroll O'Neill. Not Cornroll O'Neill.
I don't know what you're saying.
I'm just reading Ryan Stubbs. I don't know what that means, Ryan. Yeah, someone versus Nolan Ryan is probably maybe Cal
That's a
Ripken
great
versus
answer.
Nolan
I was
Ryan.
thinking Greg Maddux against like somebody back in the day too.
Yeah,
Bartolo Colon. He played on too many different teams, and
Randy Johnson
divisions mattered too much. Yeah, Randy Johnson's probably a good answer too. I mean, Nolan Ryan's got to be the answer. Somebody had to have been in the league for 20 years against Nolan Ryan, right?
Probably. Sunflower says Mickey Mantleface, Johnny Norleans over 1,000 times. I feel like you're just making up a name there. That's not a real name, is it? Sunflower? Johnny Norleans?
Johnny Norleans? No.
Emax says Ichiro. That's another good bet for somebody who probably faced some pitcher many times. Although Ichiro didn't join MLB until he was like in his upper 20s, right?
That's true. It took him a hot second, and then he played forever. So he might have faced somebody a lot. Either way, everybody hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. We have just a couple minutes left here. Want to double check here on the premium Discord, make sure that I got all the questions there. Vokey or Cleveland wedges? Always an important question. Back in high school, Cleveland for sure. It's been Vokey since I got to college. And once you get those things tuned in with somebody who knows what they're doing fitting you, it is really hard to get out of a Vokey wedge, but very important questions. I'm here for the toughies. GG123. He just said Kirby Pablo or Brown Musgrove. So that's a 2v2 he's looking at. Do you like the pitching combination on DK of Kirby Pablo or Brown and Musgrove?
Kirby, Pablo, or Brown and Musgrove?
One's higher owned than the other. Brown Musgrove a lot lower owned.
I like both Brown and Musgrove. So yeah, give me that one.
All right. Fire that
and
up,
all
my
have,
friends.
They're all similar in terms of top two pitcher odds. I was just going to look at there. I see a Reddit post about the bats who have, now it went away. I tried to click on it and it went away. So, all right. I guess we're not finding out which bat faced a pitcher the most.
We got Wookie23. Is Tampa still positively leveraged? Oh boy, are they. They're the most positively leveraged team by quite a ways tonight. So there's your answer on that. So you're saying there's no way any batter sees a pitcher better than another. I don't know if that makes sense, but to say it's a relative or ignore it, it's not that I don't believe it necessarily. It's that I don't know how to factor it in to projecting out a player to succeed or not succeed on that given day, unless you're looking at specific weather environment, like, the wind blowing out 15, 20 miles per hour at Wrigley, or, if you're looking at specific instances like that, where you could throw everything out the window. I'm not saying that you can't necessarily see it better. It's just that you never see a pitcher enough as a major league hitter to have it really be something that I think is indicative of future success. Is that the right way of putting it, Neil?
Yeah, I think that is exactly the right way of putting it. Like, we just I don't actually, and we're also, I don't know about you, but I'm not like a statistician. So like, there are better people to answer this question. Like, when does the sample size become big enough that it's something worth factoring in? But I know that 12 is not big enough, which is what we're talking about here. And yeah, there might be a point where it is predictive, but I think in general, like the amount of times a pitcher and a batter face each other in Major League Baseball isn't enough to be something that we want to be factored in. Like, it certainly can be. You're right that there are probably bats who don't hit well against like a sidearm pitcher, a submarine pitcher, that kind of thing. Or like we can see sample sizes such as like fast batters who hit well against fastballs versus curveballs. But like that's gonna be factored into the projection because we have that larger sample size. It's not just gonna be that one batter against a pitcher. You'd be better off looking at that one batter against a pitcher who pitches that type of pitches in general. So it's like it's not usually just a 1v1. Those sample size aren't going to be big enough. Eric, did you do a home run pick
pitchers
today?
Down by the seashore? No, we can do home runs on the way out. You ready to rock?
I did one earlier, and I'll probably be able to figure out who it is because he was just the top of the top batter stool.
I pulled
that's how I roll.
Real Muto out of my top hat yesterday, even though he didn't have better than plus 600. So even though I talked about him, didn't end up getting there. And then, of course, he just goes for like the cycle on crack or whatever he did. He just belligerently just murdered that slate. My favorite, let's go Kyle Tucker. He's the one piece of Houston that I don't think gets the kind of steam that we're looking at. Let me double check what his ownership is at here. Left on left. That seems like a fun one to go out of here on. Kyle Tucker. Yeah, he's sub 10% over there. Give me a little bit of that. That sounds like fun. Obviously he's not on the betting card because you're not getting the reflective odds, but that is a different conversation for a different show. Neil, we are all done here, my friend. We're getting out of here. Any final words for the people as we head into lock?
Yeah, Mr. Nice Guy remembered it was Schwarber was my home run pick. I just cheat and take whoever's at the top of the top hitters tool. That's the best way to do it. Kyle Tucker only has a 19% chance of hitting a home run today, Eric, whereas Kyle Schwarber up at 32%. Actually, Jack Sawinski has passed him now, but whatever. Jack Sawinski only 3,700. Damn. But yeah, Kyle Schwarber, my home run pick. Yeah, good luck tonight.
Yeah, hopefully you don't get that rain out.
I went with Kyle Schwarber, not Sawinski.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's good stuff. Thank you to Jordan Klein. Phenomenal stuff. My first time hosting MLB Live Before Lock. Wasn't a complete disaster. Thank you to Josh for going 6 minutes long. That always helps. He's Neil Orfield. Go follow him at PlayerQDFS. I'm Eric Lindquist. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist on Twitter as well. Thank you to Underdog. We're out of here. Best of luck in the MLB streets tonight.